Welcome to the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, aka the Savage Tech Man. We talk film, TV, and tech, all from a geek perspective. You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and you can subscribe and follow on YouTube at Geek Homeworld. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be a part of the Geek Homeworld. So that is now, Audacity's now recording. All right, that's in the background. Bring this back up. I think we got a minute. Okay, 52 seconds.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but there's sounds funny. There's a way to double stream. Like you could put up your stream and I could put up my stream.
I can if I didn't have the free version of StreamYard. It's behind the paywall, which I'm close to thinking.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, because I want to add an extra camera in here, but you got to have the Pro. All right, 25 seconds till we go live here. So I've got my Rodecaster Pros working in the background. I got my Audacity as my backup. That's my other backup. And I'm running my laptop. So everything is on. I'm ready to rock. Okay, remember I'll do the 30-second countdown once we hit live, and then I'll do my little 30-second intro, and then I'll introduce everybody. And y'all can introduce yourselves when I call you out. And thank you. All right, 4, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Welcome to the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, aka the Savage Tech Man. We talk film, TV, and tech, all from a geek perspective. You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and you can subscribe and follow on YouTube at Geek Homeworld. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be a part of the Geek Homeworld. Hello, everyone. Hello, the world. Welcome to another fabulous episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, and I'm joined today with some first-timers to the podcast here. I want to welcome Prophet Pool and Sergeant Curtis Scultz. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
I go by the Prophet Director, and I am a YouTuber. I do stop-motion animated action figure reviews. And, comedy shorts and stop motion.
And you do them brilliantly, by the way. I'm very impressed with your quality of work. And Sergeant Curtis Scultz, tell us about yourself, sir.
Yes, I go by Curtis or Kurt. You can call me that. You don't have to call me the full Sergeant Curtis Scultz, but that's the name of my channel on YouTube. Okay. My channel is more of a hangout, and we discuss all geek stuff of every variation of geek stuff. So, yeah, basically, my channel is an everything channel.
It's an everything channel.
And on Curtis's channel, tomorrow we'll be doing a movie ranking for the top movies of 1980.
Yes.
And we're going to be Geek Homeworld. We're going to be part of that. You guys invited me, and I appreciate the invite. And I got my list right here.
Oh, we also, yes. Yes. Oh, also on our channel in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be starting the Halloween bangers for the Halloween season, and we discuss horror movies, stuff like that. Halloween type stuff. So that'll be fun.
Fantastic. And you see once again at the bottom of the screen, you'll see where you can reach Prophet Pool on Instagram at PDDESTRO 1973. And I'm not even going to try to read out your YouTube link, but you're on YouTube there. And what's the name of the channel, Prophet?
The Prophet Director's channel. If you type in the Prophet Director's channel, you'll find my channel.
Okay.
It's been a while since there's been a video there because that channel was associated with an old job.
Oops.
My new channel will be starting up very soon.
And you'll let us know, and we'll get all that updated.
I will let everyone know.
We can put it in the comments and all. So we're here to talk about totally unspoiled. If there's some reason on Earth, and I do know a few people on Earth that have not seen Deadpool and Wolverine, you're going to get spoiled. So come back later if you've watched the film. I had somebody that was coming on the stream tonight, but I had to warn them we're full of spoilers here. And anything goes. So they're going to come back later once they go and watch it. So be warned. There could be spoilers. There will be spoilers. So there will be blood. Spoilers. Oh, I just realized I forgot my light here. That's why I look so pale. Dang it. So vain.
Yeah, I feel like this movie would be impossible to talk about without spoilers.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
It's like trying to figure it all out without it.
Looks
gosh.
like Big M is in the chat. Hello, Big M.
Big M. Oh, let's pull up the chat.
Big M.
Big
What
M,
up?
welcome. It's he's like, "What's up, gentlemen?" So thank you for joining us. Let me get all the crap out of the way so we can actually get to talking about it. I want y'all to subscribe. YouTube.com at Geek Homeworld 4248. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we got a lot of good stuff on here. I even do some gaming videos. I'm trying to get back into that. I just got to find the time. But we've got this rolling on here. Wherever you get your podcast, we're also in audio podcast form if there's any of my audio podcasters out there. And so like, share, subscribe, do all that junk you're supposed to do. And we are here talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. So where do you guys want to hop in?
Well, we might as well start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Start at the beginning. What a great intro. I freaking love the intro to Deadpool and Wolverine. I have this little fact that Blake Lively plays Lady Deadpool in the film. And I think that's Ryan's wife or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah, and there's multiple references to her throughout the film.
It is.
Yeah.
And she had her bestie is some up and coming singer called Taylor Swift. Never heard of her. And
Overrated.
oh well, yeah, and like
Overrated.
$1 billion overrated artist. It's crazy. But she was gonna. The big rumor was that Taylor Swift was gonna be Lady Deadpool in there, and because she was on set certain times and. You know, it didn't need the boost in box office, but that could have probably helped. You know, get all those teenage girls out there watching an R-rated movie over and over and over, like Titanic, so it becomes $1 trillion film. But anyway, the film didn't need her, but it was the opening using "Bye Bye Bye" by NSYNC. Was actually Blake Lively is a massive NSYNC fan, and so she convinced Ryan to do the intro to that. And it totally works, where he's taking Wolverine's dead bones. What a way to start off. And he's beating the smack out of everybody using his adamantium skeleton.
He's killing them.
He is killing them. He's mutilating them. It's so awesome. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's just over the top crazy. And I saw it the first couple times was in 3D. And it is really cool in 3D to see the bones and everything flying, and like when Hugh Jackman's face comes up, it's his skull, and it comes out to the screen like. And
he always has inventive opening credits. I mean, the very first Deadpool, that opening credit scene is amazing.
And as the three films go, I this is the one I had the most fun with, and I'm kind of torn because my favorite, mainly because of the casting, Josh Brolin, in the same year he did Thanos. He did Cable, and I'm a big Cable fan from the comics. And I think Josh Brolin nailed that character. I was terrified going into Deadpool 2 that it would be too comical and not serious enough. But I think they hit the right notes, and Josh Brolin's
Agreed.
So fantastic. Yeah. And I'm like him. I'm a little disappointed he wasn't in this one, but if he was, it would have caused it would have caused a lot of fourth wall breaks. With, is this guy Thanos or who is he? No, this is Deadpool. They could have made a whole joke out of that, but
yeah,
right. I could see like Cable going, somebody going, "Are you Thanos?" And he would say something along the lines of, "Do I look digital to you?
Yeah, I know.
Do I look CG to you?"
He's like,
Yeah.
now I know of Apocalypse, and he could look at the screen and go, oh, what?
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the biggest freaking. Oh, sorry. You were going to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say that back to the 3D part.
Yeah.
I'm going tomorrow to see it in 3D for the first time. It's gonna be. I know it's gonna be great. It just looks like it's. You got to see it in 3D.
Parts of it really do work in it. After a while, you don't realize it. It doesn't really take from it, but it does help. I think, especially in the credits, it's really cool. And,
and I'm usually not a 3D guy anymore, but I'm definitely.
You've both obviously seen it before, right? So
yes.
No spoilers. So how many times is this going to be for you guys?
Tomorrow will be 3 for me.
I'm up to I need to take I might go tomorrow myself. Because it would be my third. The first time I saw it was, I had a job interview. I had 2 job interviews in one day, and I had to keep pushing them back every hour. The showings, and I wanted a bigger format screen. And our Eagles here in Augusta are not great. They leave a lot to be desired. Because when I came from Savannah, we had the big, massive IMAX that, I still want to see it in something that big and grandiose, but I had to keep pushing them back until I could get a scene where I could make the interviews and then go to Deadpool and Wolverine. So, but I did see both of them. One was a real 3D and the other one was IMAX 3D, and I enjoyed them in that. It did enhance it in the bigger format screen. It's just
I've seen it twice myself. And I usually have to drive a decent distance because I live in Chicago. So for me, when I go see a movie, I need to drive to the wealthy suburbs, to avoid the gun violence that happens in a Chicago theater.
Duck, I'll cover you. Unless Batman is driving you through there, right?
Yeah, I can't complain. As Destro, an arms dealer, I've probably sold them the weapons they're firing at me with. So
yeah, both sides, right?
Right.
So
right.
So what are y'all's overall thoughts?
Well, for me, I look at Deadpool and Wolverine as a love letter to the Fox Marvel universe. Then if the movie doesn't display that to you, the end credits should, because you get all those outtakes and bloopers and making of stuff from all the original Fox X Marvel movies.
Right.
Not just X-Men, but all of the Fox Marvel movies. I would have loved it if they could have actually gotten Nicolas Cage to come and be Ghost Rider. I heard Ryan Reynolds tried real hard.
Yeah, and he was unsuccessful.
But they had plenty of amazing cameos in the movie. When it started out, and we've got Depressed Pool, working at the dealership with Peter, and he's broken up with what's her name?
The hot chick. That's her.
Well, that's what her name is in the credits, right?
Hot chick.
The one played by Marina Baccarin. Why can I not remember her name right now? It doesn't matter.
Hey,
them being broken up, the fact that you don't have Cable and Domino at the party with them is a little disappointing.
Yeah.
No TJ Miller was a little disappointing.
Well, they had a massive falling out, like since Deadpool 2. They are not on even speaking terms, the actors, for some reason.
Ooh.
TJ, is it TJ or whatever?
Yeah, TJ Miller, apparently he rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
He got arrested. For something.
Oh, crap. Yeah. He was the funniest part of the Deadpool film. One of the funniest parts is, they could bounce those one-liners off of each other in both of the films, and it was just, especially the first one.
Yeah, I think my favorite was when he said,
"Luck is
you look like an avocado, had sex with an older avocado." And there was no love involved. It was strictly like revenge sex. It was like hilarious. Like
I can't even remember all the jokes. They just were so.
Or Freddy Krueger had sex with a topographical map of Ohio or something. Like hilarious stuff.
So
it was I was disappointed Domino wasn't there. But then
Yeah.
again, they had his girlfriend there, so I don't know.
Yeah, that
Kind of messes
a lot of that relationship obviously took a backseat to just getting into the action with Hugh Jackman with Wolverine. But I kind of wish they would have spent a little bit more time with that, and personally less with the TVA. It's some of the things on a couple watchings, some of the stuff doesn't hold up as well, but for just a fun film and giving you the fan service of what we wanted to see, like they were spot on with that. Now, for the cameos, the Sabretooth fight, I wanted something more than just a Superman Doomsday one shot. You know what I mean? It's like, boom, and you're done. It was a cool move, but that's it. And then the Furiosa joke.
Yeah.
Well, for me, my favorite cameo in the whole thing,
I know what you're gonna say.
was Gambit, but a very close second was the mislead with Chris Evans. Right? You're expecting him to be Captain America.
Yeah, I did.
And then he says flame on. Like I was in love with that scene. That scene's just fantastic.
And it was so great for him to get to do that, to kind of re-justify that character. And yeah, I mean, I totally loved it. That scene, of course, for a lot of people, when Blade walks in, the only one, what did he say? The original and the only Blade.
That smile that Wesley Snipes does is just hilarious. He's just like, however he does it,
right. Well, I mean, and it's already not true because there was a Blade TV show that did not star Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
Well, still, he's Blade, and some people are now let him play that, instead of Mahershala Ali, just put him in the Blade. Nothing against Mahershala, it's just, Marvel's doing a piss poor job of getting that production to wrap.
Yeah.
But before we go ahead, Curtis.
I was just saying, my understanding of the Blade is it's to do with the writing of the story. Like, the guy keeps his the guy that's gonna play Blade. What's his name?
Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, Mahershala Ali. He's just like, this is crap. This is crap. Rewrite it.
Well, originally I heard it was a kind of a woke fest. That's a big surprise coming from Disney, right?
Right.
But it wasn't even focusing on him. It was like female vampires and stuff. And then they're like, even Kevin Feige said, this is crap. And we can't do that.
The return of Parker Posey. No.
Right. Well, they need to stop alienating, because we're talking about comic book movies.
Right.
And yes, there are some women that enjoy them, but 80% of your fan base is men. Right. So it's like, stop trying to alienate 80% of your fan base to appease 20%.
And you can still have female characters that are strong or powerful, but there doesn't have to be a man that has to be their foil necessarily. They can still be strong on their own right. Just, you can.
Well, I mean, I think Deadpool and Wolverine achieves that.
They do.
Because X-23 is a very strong female character.
It was so good. That was probably one of the most heart-tending parts, is to see her come back. And,
right.
And see her as, some people are a little upset that she's going to possibly be the new Wolverine. I don't know how I feel about that, but I've got no problem with her being there right alongside Wolverine, or if she is Wolverine to an extent,
Right.
Well, according to Deadpool, Hugh Jackman will have to do it until he's 90.
Until he's 90. Yeah, that's the new saying for everything. You have to do it.
So you're 90.
But
Spoiler.
And unfortunately, that's going to be Kathleen Kennedy. Until she's 90.
How does she get fired?
I don't know.
A lot of people are always reporting she's on the brink of getting fired or moved. And
well, I think it gets a lot of clicks from hopeful fans, true fans.
Pretty much.
And
right. Well, but that lawsuit is happening. Elon Musk is financing Gina Carano's lawsuit.
I heard that.
And Kathleen Kennedy's name is the very top of that list. So,
dang.
Yeah, the first step has passed. So, see what goes on that one.
See what happens. For cameos, my favorite was Gambit, and at first he just looked real kind of puggy. I don't know, in the face. He looks kind of fake and kind of cheap, his outfit. But the more I saw scenes of it, I'm like, there were some pretty badass things he did as that character. And it was funny, not understanding his dialogue and him really getting into the Cajun accent. So I enjoyed it, and I felt happy for him. I felt the way I felt about who was the Amazing Spider-Man that had the 2 Spider-Man movies, Andrew Garfield, in No Way Home. When he got kind of redemption in there, I felt like Channing Tatum getting his Gambit movie that never was. It felt like redemption in a way, and like all those characters, like Blade, finally getting that recognition. Wesley Snipes for the trilogy there, or at least the 2 films. The third one was off the rails. With that's where him and Ryan Reynolds became enemies, or fell out. Now they're good, thank God. But it's funny how
and he even
around.
jokes about that in the scene.
He does.
I don't like you. He's like, that's nothing new.
Mine was Elektra, Jennifer Gardner, because it's Jennifer Gardner. I just got a big, crush on Jennifer
and
Gardner.
he made a jab about the divorce, and she goes, "No, I'm fine." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he did. He went there."
Well, before we drift off from Channing Tatum, like I think like all of his like jokes about I think maybe I was born here. You know what I mean? Like, because he never got his movie, and this is like the first place he ever appeared. So
I missed that part.
Like all of his jokes were about like how his movie never got made and how this is his first appearance. And I have to disagree with the Cajun accent. I understood every single word he said.
Oh, did you?
Prophet, say that again though. Say the what he said. I was born here. Say that again.
I think maybe I was born here.
He's got it down pat, man. He's already got it down pat.
I love it.
Well, in my stop motions, I do all my own voice work. I've literally voiced all the Muppets.
Yes.
Oh gosh, you may have to show some of your stuff later on the stream if we have time. I
have no problem with that.
Cool. So, who else was in there? We got Johnny Storm. We got Blade. We got
Elektra.
We had Pyro,
Azazel.
which I didn't know that was. I figured that was Pyro, but they didn't really tell me till later on. I couldn't see the resemblance between the actors. It wasn't that big of a deal. But of course, the Chris Evans one was probably the biggest reveal. The biggest kind of he's gonna say the thing. He's gonna say the thing, and he goes flame on. And he's like, what the hell?
Yeah, that was perfect. Then I love the after credit scene where they show that he did say every single word verbatim that Deadpool accused him of.
Yeah.
The thing that got him flayed alive.
Right.
The Wolverine's reaction to that was the best too. You just got him fucking killed.
And probably some people are saying the best scene in the movie was where they're in the old beat up car and killing each other, and they both can't die, obviously. Yeah. That was pretty awesome. And
driving through the cornfield, the giant cornfield.
Yeah. And I heard there was going to be a lot more 80s music in it, but Blake Lively said, no, we need more updated music and more stuff. But, he's like, we're in comic accurate. What did he say? We're in comic accurate uniforms. We're listening to Madonna and we're kicking ass. What else could you ask for? It's like,
speaking of comic accurate, I think we need to go through the finding a Wolverine montage.
Okay.
When that Wolverine hops off the bar stool and he's super short, and he's like, "Oh look, a comic accurate Wolverine."
The Age of Apocalypse. I didn't even recognize that was him at first until later on the second viewing. I was like, I know this Wolverine. Which Wolverine is this? And I couldn't quite place it because they go by so quickly. And then on the second viewing, it's like, oh my God, that's Age of Apocalypse, because he was missing the hand. Because when him and Scott went in, Scott lost an eye, and he lost a hand. In Age of Apocalypse.
Right, because he was married to Jean Grey in the Age of Apocalypse.
Exactly, yeah. And still one of the best storylines ever, still.
It is an incredible X-Men crossover. It's probably my second favorite after what was it called? Inferno. After Inferno.
Oh, Inferno. Oh, okay. Oh, you put Inferno that high. Okay.
Oh, yeah. For me, Inferno is top of the food chain. I absolutely love it. The stuff with the Reavers, the stuff with Madripoor, the stuff with, Genosha, all great crossovers. But Inferno, bringing hell to Earth and having the mutants deal with it, was just amazing. And making Jean Grey's clone, Madeline Pryor, the you know, the main villain of it, you know, was a really great decision. And the fact that it tied all the X books together, even Excalibur, like, was fantastic.
That's true. That's true. There's, I mean, just all the different Wolverines we saw, and what else did we see? We saw.
Well, we saw Patch, which was Wolverine undercover in Madripoor.
See, now I never read that comic. I do remember when that came out, but I don't think I ever read it. So I know of it. Like when they mentioned in one of the, I don't know if it was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show on Disney Plus when they mentioned Madripoor, or I think that's where it was, and they went to Madripoor or something. But they mentioned it.
I think it might be a Black Widow reference.
Okay, maybe it was.
Because Black Widow, you know, I believe she talked about either Black Widow or Hawkeye, one of the two.
Was it? Okay.
Because I think the whole Madripoor thing involved one of them.
Okay. Yeah, but it was like, I didn't. Other than that, I really didn't know much about it. And then we saw a true old man Logan or whatever, where he's sitting on the porch with the shotgun.
Yeah.
But probably the most surprising Wolverine one was, what do we call it? Cavalrine.
Cavalrine, yeah, it's great stuff.
And it just looked weird to me, but I could see where it could work, you know. Some people said he's obviously too big and I don't know if he's too built to be Wolverine, but I don't know. I liked anything getting him work, Henry Cavill work, is good for me because they screwed him over so bad at DC, you know.
Well, you know, I don't think he's too buff. Like when back in the 80s, some friends of mine and we were fan casting the X-Men, like way before the X-Men movie came out. And there's some obvious ones like Arnold as Colossus, you know. Right. I think we had David Bowie's wife Yaman as Storm.
You could also do Grace Slick back then. Not Grace Slick.
Yeah, Grace Jones.
Grace Jones could have been.
But our Wolverine was something that a lot of people like weren't down with at the time. But you know, if you look at, because my pick for Wolverine back then, and keep in mind this was about the time that Cape Fear came out, the remake. Mm-hmm. So for me, De Niro, the way De Niro looked in Cape Fear, like, because he got himself nice and swole. You know, he's not really tall.
Interesting.
You know, that would have been great in the 80s. Obviously not now. Now De Niro's like old and woke. So
I would have done Dolph Lundgren as he could have done Colossus back then. If he were a little muscular, you know.
He could have. Personally, Arnold, I think, would have been the best pick for back then. But of course, he would have been very expensive.
Oh yeah, because it was.
That was like the height of his popularity.
Yeah, well, also Lundgren too, in a way, you know, but not as much as Schwarzenegger was in high, you know, A+.
See, now there's a reason that I wouldn't take Lundgren, and that's because he had already ruined The Punisher at that point.
That's right.
Yeah, and that Punisher movie was terrible. Like, a lot of people don't even know it exists. You know, it was like, his Dolph Lundgren movie was worse than the Roger Corman Captain America and Fantastic Four movie.
Oh my gosh!
And that's saying a lot.
The Fantastic Four was pretty bad.
Was it worse than Masters of the Universe?
About as bad.
Yeah. That is bad.
Right, Lundgren is great as a villain. Right, Rocky IV, Lundgren's amazing.
Well, I was going to say
Universal Soldier, Lundgren is amazing.
Sylvester Stallone, who could he have been? I was trying to remember who we used to cast him as back then.
What about Jesse Ventura?
Yeah.
Well, you know, he's busy being a governor, so we don't need to mess with Jesse. Let Jesse retire, man.
Not
the poor old guy.
Back then.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know who Stallone.
But a couple of the Wolverine cameos were basically just live action renditions of famous covers. Right, like the John Byrne Wolverine. You see the Hulk's reflection in his claws.
That was great.
Right, the story arc where he fought the Reavers, where he's on the big X being crucified.
Right, that one.
You know, which is incidentally the story where Wolverine took Jubilee under his wing, and brought her into the X-Men.
Right.
But yeah, the Wolverine cameos were all fantastic. You know, it was nice to get you know, to see some other possible Wolverines. And it was very nice to see that you know, they weren't all Hugh Jackman. Like you said, the Cavalrine was really great, you know. Much like with Deadpool, they weren't all Ryan Reynolds. You know what I mean? Like
and that proves that Marvel can recast a character like T'Challa and make somebody else T'Challa. You know, not kill the character and go down that dead road. As you know, with other characters as well, they can recast. Like, it's going to be so interesting to see what they do with Robert Downey Jr. Believe me, if they've got him back, they're not going to F it up. I really don't. I think they're going to find a way to make it so good because he's such a good actor. You know, he's really going to have to stretch to make it where he's not for the general, not for us, you know, hardcore people that will accept it, but for the general population that says, hey, wait a minute, wasn't he Iron Man for like the whole Marvel that they watched? You know what I mean?
Right.
He's got to make it believable. So.
You know, well, you know, it's it's kind of funny because when I was watching that the panel, the Hall H panel, and Feige, or not Feige, Joe Russo says we needed to get the greatest actor of all time. And I'm like, you know, in my head, I'm like, oh, so you got Daniel Day-Lewis?
There you go.
Right? And then they bring out Robert Downey Jr., and I'm like, oh, so you got like the third best actor of all time.
Robert Downey Jr. was supposed to be in that scene with Happy Hogan, but he had filmed the scene with him, from what I understand, but then they left it on the cutting room floor. They said because they hadn't introduced Doom yet, and I didn't think they wanted to bring him in just yet, because that might have maybe take some of the shock off of the announcement. You know, I don't know, but
right. Well, you know, while we're fan casting Wolverine, my modern day fan casting for Wolverine is Scott Eastwood.
Okay. What about Zac Efron, or is he too old?
I don't think he's too old. Because, you know, these actors, you know, they don't seem to be aging like they used to. It's
all that damn Ozempic.
Right. But Scott Eastwood, like, I think he has a good look for Wolverine. He can grow the hair for sure. He's ripped, but not super tall.
I kind of want somebody that's kind of a bad guy in a way that's got a bit of an edge. I kind of want him to be more gruffier, Wolverine, this time around. I want him to be more of a jerk in a way, you know. I want him to be a little bit more closer to the comics this time.
Well, a lot of people were fan casting Harry Potter.
I've seen that. I just think I got to think of him as a bigger dude. Maybe we got to muscle him up or something.
He's actually pretty swole now.
Is he? Okay, because
he's
I'm having a hard time taking Harry Potter and putting him in a Wolverine costume. You know, in my
I could probably find a photo. I'll look for one real quick.
I'm sure, you know, it could work, you know, but you got to have that with that actor. You have to have, just like Batman has to have that gruff and that grit to him, and like Superman has to be kind of, you know, good guy. Scott or Cyclops has to be like, if Henry Cavill thinned down, he could be an awesome Cyclops, I think, you know, because he's actually too big, I think, to be Cyclops. Because in the comics they called him Slim, but he would be my first pick, Henry Cavill, to be Cyclops, and he already knows how to do heat vision or optic blast, at least, you know. And Scott's kind of the Superman of the X-Men in a way, you know. He's kind of the good guy, but somebody for Wolverine, we need somebody who's maybe has that bit of a young De Niro, you know, something gruff about him that's rough around the edges. I mean, that's what I think, you know, would be good to cast him that. And I'm not sure who would be a good one to cast as that. And currently, I don't know enough young actors that know him that well. Yeah,
I'm in the same boat.
I mean, I can cast off maybe the 80s and 90s, but I don't, you know, or who I might think. And one time I thought, like, a good Joker would have been, oh, help me out here. he modeled his career a lot like Jack Nicholson. He had the smile and everything. He was in Star Trek, and he was in a bunch of other things. What's the actor? He's still working.
Oh, the guy that played Captain Kirk.
No, not Kirk. He
Or
was.
Star-
He was. Star Trek: The Undiscovered, not the Undiscovered.
All right, so I've shared a picture there,
I'm
Ed.
trying to think what the guy's name is. Oh, you're sharing a picture? Okay. Prophet Pool is sharing.
Yeah, this is how ripped Daniel Radcliffe is now.
Wolverine and the Tidy Whities.
And here he is as Wolverine.
Oh, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, I think he's got potential.
Got to put the big Harry Potter glasses on, though. That's his disguise.
Right, give him a lightning bolt scar.
Yeah,
Oh, you know, if he was in a Deadpool movie and he was playing Wolverine, they would put the glasses on him some
yeah,
point.
at some point, yeah. You're like, here, hold these for a second. You're like, what? You're like, tear up the glasses. Yeah, maybe you could do it. Yeah. Who is? The
I mean,
guy?
he's short too, so he would kind of be height appropriate.
Who is the guy I'm thinking of? And maybe you can help me out with this Prophet Pool. I'm trying to think of the actor. I was thinking who would have been back in the day. He reminded me of Jack Nicholson. He modeled a lot of his career off of Nicholson. He kinda had
Christian Slater.
Christian Slater. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Because he kind of
Christian.
had that kind of goofy, almost had that smile. It was like it was, but he'd be a Joker. But I don't know. I don't know what he could be now. I mean, I don't know what he'd be.
I mean, obviously, I think it's a travesty. Willem Dafoe never played Joker.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe would have been great Joker.
Fantastic. Yeah, totally.
Like he wouldn't even need the makeup.
That's true.
No.
He was scarier without the mask as Green Goblin. He didn't need the mask. It just
Right. I remember that Family Guy joke where somebody talks about Willem Dafoe and Stewie's like, "Oh, not Willem Dafoe. I had a Willem Dafoe living under my bed once." And they show Willem Dafoe slide out from under the bed, and he's like, "Hey, you sleep yet?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Just checking." And he lights a cigarette and slides back under the crib.
Yeah.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
Yes. So,
But there were a lot of cameos in the scene with Cassandra Nova as well, because you got Azazel in there, you got Callisto in there, you got a not Vinnie Jones Juggernaut wearing Vinnie Jones Juggernaut costume.
He refused to do the muscle suit. And it's so it looks so obvious. I was like, boy, he's taking Ozempic, obviously. That's what I thought.
Yeah, well, Vinnie Jones is old now, man. It's got to be hard for him to get back into that sort of shape,
A lot of them, yeah. Curtis, what were you about to say? You were about to say something?
I was going to say, we could do a real spoiler and be like, who all died in that movie?
Look, hell, let's go for it. Anything goes, bro.
Of course, Juggernaut died, right?
Yeah.
Well, X-23, we didn't see it happen, but X-23 did throw his head to Deadpool.
Yes.
True. Gambit lived, so people were like, "Oh, is he going to get a spinoff?" I don't.
That's one of the things I was a little disappointed with at the end because, Deadpool asked the TVA lady to save some people, and she brought X-23 back, but not Gambit. I'm like, oh, I wanted to see Gambit at that birthday party.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Okay, we're talking about who died in Wolverine, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Well, see, I don't think we can honestly answer that because, with the exception of a few of them, we know Johnny Storm died.
Right.
We know Juggernaut died. We know Pyro died.
Sabretooth.
We know Sabretooth died. But I would argue that probably most of the people that were in that, we know Ant-Man died because his corpse was their base.
Yep.
Poor Red's not looking so good.
Right? I think that, you could probably argue that a lot of the people that were in that camp died because as Wolverine and Deadpool jumped through the Strange Portal to get back to Deadpool's Earth, the big smoke wolf thing swooped in and Probably
Elias.
killed a whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
Elias, there you go,
and
Elias.
obviously, we know she took that sling ring off of a Doctor Strange, so some variant of Doctor Strange died off screen.
Some variant. But, you know, in Multiverse of Madness, a bunch of variants are
Or
Strange.
was it the other guy? The guy that took over Doctor Strange in the movies. Remember?
Mordo?
Not more.
Yeah.
What
was it?
Or
Hey, M3's in the chat. Hello, M3.
I am M3. Hello, M3.
Hey, M3. He's saying, "Hey, everyone."
Oh, Big M says Vinnie Jones wanted to be in the film, but they wouldn't pay him what he asked.
Oh.
Oh, well, that makes sense. M3, if you want to come on, let us know, or if you want to come on,
Yeah.
certainly take you. We're having a good discussion here. So
Yeah, if you want in M3, I'll send you a link.
yeah, feel free to send out a link. So, gosh, what else? So those are the people that died. I think every week.
Yeah, we know for sure. There was a bunch. There was a bunch of bodies on the ground. That's for sure. There was a
bodies at the floor. Let the bodies.
Yes.
All right, M3, I just sent the link to your Instagram.
Sweet.
So if you want on, just go to your Instagram and jump on that link.
He's not on Instagram.
Oh.
Sure he is.
He says, I don't check my Instagram.
Oh, check it.
Well, he should check it if I just told him I sent it to him on Instagram.
He's at okay, thanks, Prophet. So anyway, what were some other parts that y'all really liked about the film, or what did you dislike?
Okay.
What did you dislike?
Well, before we get on to the dislikes,
Okay.
let's talk about the 100 Deadpools.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there were a lot of comic book Deadpools in there.
Back in a second.
Dog pool, lady pool, kid pool, baby pool, pirate pool,
Pocket pool?
samurai pool, flamenco dancer pool, Bob, what was his name? The painting guy, Bob.
Bob the not Bob the builder, Bob the PBS guy that painted. I know. Fun with trees.
But yeah, all of those Deadpools, you know. Nice Pool. I thought it was Nice Pool's death was hilarious.
Nice Pool was awesome. It was.
There you go.
funny.
Thank you, Big M. It's Bob Ross.
Bob Ross. Thank you, Bob Ross.
Yeah, but all the Deadpool, that fight, that long take where they go through the bus and jump out the back and Deadpool stumbles and lands on his face and fucks it up. It's like hilarious. But yeah, that's a great long take. And then they all start getting up and they think they're gonna have to fight him again, and then Peter Pool shows up.
Oh yeah, everybody's got a Peter in their universe. Everybody loves Peter Pool.
Oh yeah, Nathan Fillion is Headpool. Oh, Headpool's hilarious,
So that
man.
was Nathan Fillion. I was wondering where he was and all that.
Yeah, well, I'm actually eager to see what Nathan Fillion does with Guy Gardner in the Superman movie that James Gunn is directing.
I sure hope that movie surprises me in a good way, because I'm not feeling it right yet. Which maybe is good. I'll go in with.
Well, for
low
me, it's James
expectations.
Gunn. I'm going to give him credit regardless because it's James Gunn.
That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to keep an open mind. I just don't need to see any set pieces or any costumes, right now.
That's the problem with like photo leaks of sets and stuff like that. It's like, because people always want to make a judgment on it, and it's not the finished product. This is not what they're going to present to us. This is not what you're going to buy a ticket for.
Hey, we have football pool out in the chat here. Digital Caveman. He's at a football game. He said he just stopped by to drop a thumbs up. He said still at a football game. So, thank you, Caveman, for popping in. Let's see. And we had, what other pools did we had? Oh, I like the we had like a what do you call that? The Japanese, not animation, but like the robot kind of.
Oh yes, Mech Pool.
Mech pool.
Yeah, that was well, and they kind of mixed things up a little bit because they gave Mechpool the lightsabers.
Oh,
and in the comics, it's Kidpool that has the lightsabers.
Is it? And all that were left before they all regenerated was, I guess, Baby Pool. Would that be Baby Pool?
Yeah, Baby Pool, absolutely right.
Yeah, and they I'm trying to think what else. There was just some people said they felt cheapened by the fact that they could all regenerate, but it worked for me. And especially when they're fighting through the bus, and then you get that scene where they bust out of the, it's like a comics accurate Wolverine and just coming at the screen. That was really awesome. It looked good in 3D.
Yeah, well, I was mentioning that earlier. The way Deadpool face planted after that, he mentioned he messed it up. He's like, that was the shot, and I messed it up. But and then you get Samurai Pool growing his arms back. He's got little baby arms coming out of him. That's hilarious.
They still kind of grow there, and he's trying to make it in there.
He's like,
but I do think it was hilarious that Peter Pool showed up and was what stopped the fight. And oh my God, Peter Pool's big bratwurst. They must have had like a whole roll of tube socks in his pants for that.
Speaking of tube socks in their pants, M3 is here.
And M3 will appear.
Yes, it was probably one of my favorite parts was Peter Pool. Nice pool. That was great. Got that big old stock exchange right there in their crotch. Love it.
did you guys talk about the dog pool?
Yeah, dog pool is hilarious, man. And that's actually a unique dog. It's like a mixed breed. It won ugliest dog in the world in a British dog show.
Yeah.
Hey, when that dog's tongue was inside of his mouth, really washing his teeth, I went like this.
I saw the outtakes online, and when they finally said cut, Hugh Jackman just like breaks up laughing, and they're all they did a meme with like the cameraman walking by and the sound guy, and they're all like, "What the hell?" They're like, "Keep rolling."
Oh, Blind Al's reaction to how the dog's tongue felt was hilarious.
Yes.
Kevin Feige says we can't mention cocaine. But do you want to build a dragon? Of course I want to build a dragon or snowman.
You want to build a snowman? Yes, I can.
Hey, was the dog's tongue CGI or was it?
No, that's the dog's real
I feel
tongue.
like Ryan Reynolds went for that.
Okay, that's crazy. Now, also the dog got paid. I saw something on YouTube what the paycheck was for the dog. Did you guys see that?
He was smoking a cigarette afterwards. So I know that much.
We're crazy. He had his hand Deadpool has his hand so far up that dog's butt. He was like fucking Sam Newsman. Shout out Sam Newsman. Dude, that
nice.
dog.
But yeah, man, the Deadpool versus and honestly, like I think my favorite line in that whole scene is where Deadpool turns to Wolverine. He's like, "Are you ready for this?" He's like, "I get to kill 100 versions of you. I'm definitely ready." You know what I mean? However he said it.
And Hugh Jackman, and there were a few scenes where he really brought the drama to it, and that's just he's such a good actor. We needed a little bit of that to balance all the humor, and it was just enough of it, just to kind of ground the story a little bit. So I mean,
and all the Deadpool movies are good at that.
Yeah.
Ed, I mentioned the same thing when he was when Wolverine had a moment a couple times with tears. The camera was right in his face, and that's a crying man's tear.
Yeah,
he had to pull something out of himself.
You can tell he's been in Kathleen Kennedy's office and said, "Please don't kill Star Wars," and you can see how he left sad. No, but yeah. I mean, Hugh Jackman's that good, and I don't know if you even caught it. The music they were playing, they even played The Greatest Showman, a bit of that, because they were like throwing everything in there. And
when Deadpool said, give it to us right now, send us home right now, or he'll sing the entirety of Music Man with no rehearsal.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was right where they met the girl, the bald chick. What was the bald chick's name?
Cassandra Nova.
She said I'd kill both of you and skin you alive while flicking my bean.
Yes.
She was hilarious.
She looked like she was really enjoying her role, so I'm like,
yeah.
But that was creepy.
And
how her
oh my
hands go
God,
in their skull.
Yeah.
does she not look like a female version of James McAvoy or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you put pictures of them up next to each other, both bald, like they look like siblings for sure.
I liked her a lot. She reminded me of the girl from Doctor Strange, the master.
Tilda Swinton, the ancient one.
The ancient one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only because you put two bald chicks together, they kind of have similarities. But that I was drawn to the one in Deadpool because she reminded me of how much I liked the one in Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Immediate liking somebody. You know, you have that kind of like inner acceptance of somebody because it reminds you of a aunt or a good friend or something like that. You know,
Marvel,
dude. If Cassandra Nova reminded you of one of your aunts, dude, I fear for your childhood.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, and I remember Marvel getting some help when they cast Tilda Swinton in that role because it was supposed to be a person of like Asian descent, and they went with a pasty white woman. But you know, she owned that role so well. She did so good as you know.
Well, but that's kind of a misnomer, anyways, because the ancient one was not in the comics originally of Asian descent. I mean, she's the character's from another dimension. So it was, you know, the character is raceless.
Yeah.
You know, it's a raceless character.
Yeah.
Ed, after seeing Deadpool and realizing what they're doing with the multiverse that we realized a while ago, but now it's game on. Anybody can be anything, any type, anywhere. I think it's great. I don't have a problem with the multiverse. It's a little confusing, but it doesn't bother me. I like that a lot.
Anything that gets me Robert Downey Jr., even as a different character, I'm all for it. Yeah, I'm so glad that he's back. And you know, if you do it right, it all comes back to me. It's always about the story. You can take anybody and put anybody in any role as long as that story's strong enough and they can bring out what's in that story. You know.
Hey, talk about.
Well, and there is comic book precedence for it because in the comic books, Tony Stark does become Doctor Doom in one universe.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 different comic storylines that they could possibly tie in. The one where the not Reed Richards, help me out. Doctor Doom, what's his name? Doom. He switches their consciousness or whatever. And
that's in Spider-Man they do that. It's basically Doc Ock, his body is dying,
right?
And he takes over Peter Parker's body.
Yeah.
And Peter Parker's like kind of a Jiminy Cricket in his head, like trying to talk him out of doing anything negative.
Wow.
And because Doc Ock in Spider-Man's body becomes a hero and doesn't use his body to be a villain, when Peter gets his own body back, he gives Doc Ock a clone of himself so that he can continue to live and be superior Spider-Man.
Peter as in like Meg and Peter?
Did you say MAGA Peter?
Like, I don't know what you're asking, Curtis.
Meg?
Meg Peter? What?
Meg. Don't make me.
Well, we're not on your stream. I'm not going to do it, Curtis. Apparently M3 will, though. There you go. No, but, you know, on the Doctor Doom front,
I'm sorry.
Doctor Doom is the main villain of the Secret Wars crossover, right? In the original Secret Wars, Beyonder was the big bad, but it wound up, you know, Doctor Doom wound up stealing his powers and whatnot. But in the last Secret Wars they did, I think it was back in 2014 or 2013, something like that.
Right.
Doctor Doom was the big bad in it. And basically what they did was they took all the different characters from all the multiverses and they put them on what was called Battle World.
Right.
And the culmination of that was, you know, they were fighting to see which universe would get to continue existing. And that's why you had characters like Miles Morales, who were from the Ultimate Universe, got pulled into the regular universe so the character could go on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same thing with like Spider-Gwen, you know, because she came from an alternate universe where she was the one that got bit and Peter was the one that died.
Right.
So I'd imagine when they put out the Secret Wars film, it'll be the end of the multiverse for the MCU. And we'll be back down to one universe, and we'll have a definitive version of all the characters at that point.
Wow, you really think so? Look at Big M, like exactly what Big M said. Secret Wars. I'm not familiar with that in comics, Prophet. Secret Wars?
Well, honestly, Secret Wars was like, if you exclude Mego, Secret Wars was the first 5-point articulated action figures for Marvel. They were 4.5 inches tall. They all came with little lenticular shields. They had Spider-Man in the black costume, Doctor Doom with no cape for some reason.
That looks
Brown suit Wolverine, a lot of characters.
Okay. And what about...
But it was a very popular toy line when it first came out.
What's Digital saying? Big M, it will. That was the plan all along. It's going to be 2015 SW, not 1984 SW.
He's talking about Star Wars?
Huh.
I guess.
He said he's not listening. He's just watching the show.
Well, he's saying no, it's Secret Wars, not Star Wars.
Excuse me.
Secret Wars.
Yeah, they're not gonna. Yeah, they're gonna go with the 2015 Secret Wars arc and not the 1984 arc.
When I see Southwest,
so we won't see a Beyonder. It'll be Doctor Doom as the main villain.
I hear you, Ed. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, Star Wars. Were we talking about Star Wars? Yeah.
I mean, I could see why you'd think we were talking about Star Wars. I mean, we only said Secret Wars like 16 times.
Yeah.
Oops.
Hey, Curtis, do you think...
Sorry, man. Sometimes I can't curb my sarcasm.
No, you shouldn't. Shouldn't.
Do you think Star Wars could do a multiverse, or is that impossible? People would get so pissed.
People would get pissed for Star Wars because
we already have that possibility of time travel with the World Between Worlds, and Ahsoka bringing that into live action and seeing Anakin. It works if you want Anakin, but it can open up a realm of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Star Wars had time travel in it all the way back in 1984, I think.
No, I don't think there was ever actually time travel in Star Wars.
No, because think about it. The Ewok adventure, right? The Star Wars trilogy takes place in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But the humans from Earth in the Ewok adventure were from our distant future.
I don't.
So
I think
unless
they just
Wicked-
suspended belief just for that.
Unless the Ewoks don't age, right? And Wicked has lived for thousands of years, there has to be time travel and stuff.
What about E.T.? What about E.T.?
He should go home.
No, well, he went to the Senate in what was it, Attack of the
Episode
Clones?
1.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that. Somebody did I think, Curtis, you sent me that video up. Check it out.
Right down in the corner there. And another part, I think it's either in Phantom Menace, you see the Millennium Falcon coming in, or it might be episode 2. It's one.
I believe it's Attack of the Clones because the Falcon is leaving
Right.
the port of Naboo as Anakin and Padme are arriving.
But in the Senate, you actually see some ETs in one of the little Senate realm boxes.
Absolutely.
So,
But you also see C-3PO and R2-D2 in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
I've seen that video, where all the little signs are hidden there.
Yeah, they're etched in Sanskrit in the Well of Souls.
There you go. And nobody listens to droids because they listen to R2-D2 and C-3PO. Not so much C-3PO because he was a bitch, but if they would have listened to them, they could have averted the whole Skywalker saga. They could have wrapped that up in one movie with lunch.
Right? And honestly, whoever it was that originally invented droids in the Star Wars universe is a sadistic asshole. Why would you give them pain sensors? Right?
Yeah.
C-3PO getting his head bonked on the Falcon when he's on Chewie's back. Ouch, that hurt.
When they're in Cloud City and the one's getting branded on the bottom, he's like, ow!
Well, that was Jabba's palace, but yeah.
Jabba's Palace, yeah. They changed it. Stupid Mandela effect, I tell you.
Yeah, that dumb silver leg on fucking C-3PO got me a Mandela effect. I was like, there's no way there's a silver leg.
Well, then we
You
had
go
the red leg later, but they wrote that in.
Red
the
arm.
comics.
Arm.
Was it arm? Oh, damn! In my
Yeah,
universe,
in the Force
it's a
Awakens, he
leg.
has a red arm.
Red arm. Yep.
Hey, Ed, you remember it the way you remember it, bro.
That's right. It doesn't have to be right. It's how I remember it.
Prophet's the smartest being on the planet, okay?
Oh, come on. I'm just an action figure.
He knows all.
I'm just drawn this way.
Oh yeah.
Like Jackson.
I'm nothing more than 6 inches of plastic.
That's what she said.
He's really just AI. We don't ever see his real face.
That's true.
He vibrates every once in a while.
Hey, well, then I'm the most advanced AI on the planet.
Oh,
That's
dear.
it. No, that's great. Star Wars is perfect until they came up with the other three, which to me they were really boring. I'm not saying they're horrible; they're just boring. Especially the first one that came out after with the Senate, and they were talking.
What
like,
kid doesn't like politics? Come on now.
you know, right? Like how to get the wrong group inside your fucking movie fucking shits, man. For the next week.
The funny thing is, it's what's happening right now.
Well, see, here's the thing, right? Because when George Lucas made The Phantom Menace, he made it because the demand for the rest of the movies that we were originally promised was so tremendous. So he was trying to appease both the older fans, but still appeal to children, right? Because
when he originally wrote Star Wars, I think he said, I saw an interview recently, which I've seen before, I think the Viet Cong were basically the rebels in the original Star Wars or something like that. You know, they were either that or the Empire, and I'm not sure which one. But
well, the Empire was designed on Nazis.
Yeah, I could see that. You know, the archetype of that. But
it's what he said. He did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. So I mean, when he came back and wrote it, he would have been. I remember at the time he was talking about, you know, who knows what's true, but before social media, but in the 90s, I think he talked about when he was reminiscent about it. I think he said, you know, he was talking about the time of like Gore, Bush. It was before that actually because 99 when Phantom Menace came out. But I guess he was saying you could apply it, and like a lot of stuff, you could apply a lot of what was going on to politics, like you're saying, Curtis. There, you could definitely apply a lot of that to you know what's going on now in the political climate of things.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's what's cool about Star Wars. I mean, I remember when I was in HR and we were dealing with a lot of interpersonal stuff, and I had my own office, and I had a maroon chair at the time, and I was like, it was right during like Revenge of the Sith, and it's hard not to sit in your chair and quote Emperor Palpatine, you know. Do this because
it's
I said
treason then.
Yeah, I wish I were that cool. God,
Hell yeah.
The prequels were saved by Ian McDermott. His acting, superb. You know, no one else could have played the Emperor that well.
Does he do any other movies?
He may have.
He's been in a few things. Most predominantly, in my mind, he's in Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he is. Wow, I hadn't seen that in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the Headless Horseman's victims.
But you know, you get let's call them anchor beings, right? As Marvel does. You get those actors like that. You get people like Harrison Ford that kind of held up the franchise to an extent. You have Alec Guinness that was there, and you know he was already killed off, but then they kept bringing him back as a Force ghost because George Lucas wanted him in there, and he needed
Right.
Obi-Wan's influence there before there was, you know, to tie in with Yoda and all that, and kind of pass the torch in that way. But then you have like Christopher Lee as Dooku, so elegant, you know, so great and so.
Which is ironic because we had, Christopher Lee was Dracula in all the Hammer horror films, and Peter Cushing was Van Helsing, and he was Tarkin in the original series. So we had both Dracula and Van Helsing in Star Wars.
Yeah, I saw a report the other day talking about a video about they're trying to say when Rogue One came out and they did Tarkin, the CGI on him and the Princess Leia kind of redo there, that was the beginning of the fall of AI, as it were, in cinema, you know, in a bad direction. But I don't know if I agree with that because I
definitely don't agree with it.
Rogue One to a high esteem. I think that's the best thing that Marvel ever did with Star Wars.
For me, Rogue One is the second best Star Wars film ever made after Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
I'm close to saying that. I know Caveman says that exactly, and there, some ways you could say that, but I can never take away. You never take away your first love. You know, the first time seeing that big ass spaceship,
The original.
the original.
Yeah, that's why Xanadu's on my 80s movie list, because Olivia Newton-John was my first love.
We have to believe in magic, right? but yeah, that and even Return of the Jedi, they just fit so well together, you know. But I don't know. I would push Revenge of the Sith obviously to the top of the prequels. I would, in my everyday life, Revenge of the Sith is probably close to the top. Not that it's a great film, but it's so quotable and it's such an important turning point in the whole Skywalker saga that, you know,
I think that was like the best of the
it was
three.
definitely the best of the prequels.
But it does have a Jurassic Park T-Rex pin level fucking flaw in it, right? Because in episode 1, Obi-Wan couldn't have had lower grounded Darth Maul, and yet he flips over him and cuts him in half. And then when he's fighting Anakin on the damn shore, he's like, I have the high ground. It's like, come on, dude.
He
You won your best fight with the low ground.
But he realized he needed the high ground, and Anakin wasn't smart enough. He was arrogant enough to think he could do the high ground. All Anakin had to do is not jump up. He should have jumped over. If he just would have arched over, he would have went straight at Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan wouldn't.
Or if he'd have done that like tornado dive that Palpatine does towards Mason the Jedi in his office.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
You know what would be a cool nod to Blade in Deadpool 3 was if you had some sort of Van Helsing, because Wolverine was Van Helsing, you know, it kind of enters into who Jackman fucking played.
I thought that was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed Van Helsing. I thought Jackman did a good job in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the actress at this right off the top of my head.
Kate Beckinsale is fucking fine.
Yeah, Kate Beckinsale. Oh my god!
I think that was before she did the
It was before Underworld for sure.
Yeah,
But it was after Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
That would be cool. Blade walking by and giving the side eye to fucking Van Helsing walking by, but it's Wolverine-esque. You know, kind of.
You know, personally, I think the worst movie Kate Beckinsale was in, and here's a hot take, it was not Pearl Harbor. It was Click with Adam Sandler.
What was she?
She was Sandler's wife in that.
Huh.
What?
Gosh, that's been a while since I've seen that.
Dude, I'm not going to say, are you sure? I'm telling myself, is he sure? Let me look that up.
There you go.
He's sure. He's 100% positive.
IMDb.
I know. I seen it. I remember. That's because I was like, ooh, she's in this too.
I mean, that was one of the things that made Click so unbelievable. Adam Sandler gets Kate Beckinsale in no multiversal situation.
All right.
That's true.
Well, you're right, dude. Dang.
Of course I'm right.
I know. Oh,
No, but you know, back to Deadpool 3. Yeah, I think it's arguably like the most fun Deadpool movie to watch. I think 2 is the most heartfelt movie to watch. And 1 is just like such a great introduction. You know, but Deadpool 1, it kind of already nodded to being part of the MCU, because the final battle takes place on a downed helicarrier from Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I seen it. Did you also see in Deadpool 3 the Scarlet Witch's statue?
Yes.
Or
It was
Yes.
hanging right over there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It took me to the second time.
Well, you know, in the comics, Deadpool has a massive crush on Wanda.
Really?
Whoa.
Huh, I didn't know that.
How do you? I don't even get that, man. That's crazy. That's a lot of.
Well, I did work in a comic store for 10 years, so
That's one reason I really don't collect Marvel stuff, because there's just so much.
All over the place, Hawker.
They really kind of screwed up
Much.
for Doctor Strange. They really did a great job with Wanda as the villain, but my favorite Disney Plus show was
WandaVision?
WandaVision, yeah. And it took me a while to get going after the first two episodes, but after that I was pretty much in it, and that was really, they had kind of completed her arc, and then they turn her into a villain, because she can't see her kids. And as much as I loved her as a villain, I just hate what it did for her overall arc. And what is her redemption like now? Or do we just get a variant of her that isn't evil anymore?
Well, I think there were some missed opportunities.
She's not dead, you know that.
Well, I think she's in the void. I mean, her statue is in the void, and then
because at the end of Doctor Strange,
when the mountain collapses and you see that big pink explosion,
right? You see that little bubble of her.
If her statue went to the void, it tends to reason that she also went to the void.
She would have been crushed under it. Yeah.
I do think there was a missed opportunity with that, though, because here we are looking for a way to bring the X-Men into the MCU, and in the comic books. What they could have done was what they did with the House of M crossover. Because in that, Wanda realizes that she's been manipulating the universe, all based on her father's brainwashing. And when she wakes up from it and realizes what her father made her do, she says, "That's it, Father. No more mutants." And she basically turns the X gene off in all but 200 mutants on the planet. And if they would have done that, that could have explained why there were no mutants, in the MCU up to that point. And it would have been a great window to bring in mutants, having Wanda release that spell from the planet.
But from what I understand from seeing the footage of whatever that was that Comic-Con, Disney-Con, or whatever that might be going on now, of the Fantastic Four, we get to see Galactus in there. He's peeking in the window in the daylight. You see his eye. But we're going to get Doctor Doom in the end credits of that. People are pretty sure of that. That's when they're going to bring in Robert Downey Jr. and then spin him out to Doomsday.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but they did sort of already introduce the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom in the MCU years ago. So in the second Ant-Man movie, right when Hank Pym is shrinking down to go get Janet, he passes. There's a little cloud type thing that has a building on it, and the argument is that building is Four Freedoms Plaza, because the Fantastic Four movie is going to take place in 1963.
True, it is.
So if that movie ends with them going into the quantum verse, and that's why they haven't been in the MCU up to this point. That would make perfect sense that's where they're at.
It is happening in a different universe.
Exactly. And then in Civil War, when they're showing the map of what is it, the country that Zemo's from, the country Ultron lifts into the air?
Sokovia?
Sokovia. When they're showing the map, you see Latveria on the map. So they didn't quite introduce Doctor Doom per se, but they did express that his country existed.
Right. And I know that you're gonna see more of them. And I mean, they'll do that. They'll put the little things in there, wondering if they're ever gonna take fruit, like the little kid in is it Iron Man 3 or Iron Man 2 when he's and he's got the little Iron Man mask on, and he's like.
They've said that was Peter Parker.
Which at the time we know it wasn't Peter Parker, but we have no problem with them saying, okay, that can be Peter Parker. We're like, yeah, we're all for that. That makes perfect sense. It kind of gives it a little tie up, that you didn't have before story-wise. So
that's crazy. I never knew that.
Yeah. They said they went back retroactively and said that after we had Homecoming.
Yeah, and that's why in Deadpool 3. The mask that little kid was wearing is on the shelf behind Deadpool in his interview with Happy Hogan.
And that's why in Endgame, the kid that played that little Iron Man kid was in Endgame. He was up there at Tony Stark's funeral. Did you know?
No, that was Harley from Iron Man 3.
Was that Harley? Oh, was it?
Yeah, the kid who helped him in his garage.
You are correct. Yeah, you're correct. Which, if they did Ironheart, I would have rather him been Ironheart or Iron Man Jr. or whatever they were going for at the time,
Hey, you know dang well the producers and the people who are involved with like making all this shit up sound exactly like you guys, and they're like, oh no, wait, remember? So let's go ahead and put the little mask right here because some people are gonna get it, and you have to do because that like who keeps track of all that? Some master
because they know that YouTubers are going to go out there and make Easter egg videos.
There used to be a guy, and I don't know if it was Jim Lee, but I remember an article I had years ago from like a comic book or some mag talking about comics, and they talked about the guy that keeps the continuity together, and it was an Asian dude, and I think it was Jim Lee. I could be totally wrong on that. And I read this great article, and he was talking about how he kept the continuity together, and this is before they really talked about Easter eggs, but that was the thing with the Marvel films, putting in those little Easter eggs, and you could just there's videos that find 100 Easter eggs in one film, and you're like, how could you even it's kind of like Nostradamus. If you look hard enough, you can find it. You can take the facts and kind of bend them a little bit and make that make sense. Which I don't have a problem with that because it gives you that sense of continuity that we're looking for. And God knows we need some kind of continuity because Marvel hasn't had it since Endgame. So, in the universe, we need to know what the hell's going on. Even if you have several universes, you still needs to be something tying everything together.
And I kind of appreciate that they're scrambling the universe a bit because it makes Secret Wars that much more important.
That's true. But, I always thought growing up. Now, how many of y'all, and I want to ask you this question, you may not know, and maybe because of the age of when I grew up, I didn't know anything about the Clone Wars when I, watched the original Star Wars and New Hope, before it was A New Hope and all that. And when they talked about the Clone Wars, in my mind, I imagined the Clone Wars as that there was a world, and I didn't know anything about War World, but I imagined there was a clone of everybody. Like there was a Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca, an Obi-Wan, somewhere, and the Emperor had him somewhere else, and it was a Clone War. And they kind of had that in the extended universe of the books, but I thought the Clone Wars where everybody had a clone and you were fighting your clone. I realized later, obviously, that it was just about the clones, army they created. But I always thought that was interesting before I even knew that was a Secret Wars kind of thing in Marvel. I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, and the funny thing about, like, if you're talking about clones in Star Wars,
right?
When you look at, like, because Palpatine, he's playing 4-dimensional chess while everyone else is playing checkers.
True.
Right, because he sees things decades in advance. So the whole reason that Palpatine went with the clone army instead of a droid army was because he knew someday he would need to develop clones for himself. Right, and that was the whole point of Snoke, and why Snoke was so mangled was because they couldn't figure out how to get midichlorians to stay in a clone without deteriorating it.
Right. And now they're even scared to even mention midichlorians because people are like, oh, I don't want to hear about that. I like the scientific explanation of midichlorians and how.
So do I. I never understood why people hated it.
And, if we ended up going into what George Lucas originally had, he didn't have it all written down, but he had it kind of outlined out. He was going to get in his trilogy that he handed to Star Wars to Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger, and they said, we'll take good care of it and do our best. Yeah.
Lies.
And kicked him on the way out the door. But he was going to get into the prophecy of the wills, basically what J.J. Abrams then kind of went to the books of the Jedi, and we're pulling some of that out. And now Abeloth and all we're getting through Dave Filoni, he's kind of pulling some of that out too. And, we're in the world between worlds. I think we were kind of going to get into a more ethereal look at what the Force was beyond like midichlorians, maybe, getting it a little more straightened out. But then we didn't get that. But they picked and choose what they wanted. And now they've screwed up all the lore, with Star Wars. And, you don't know.
Yeah, well, one of the only problem that I had with the midichlorians, like in the original trilogy, or in the prequel trilogy, is because when the original trilogy came out, with the exception of Darth Vader, right?
Right.
And what we found out in Jedi Palpatine as well, because the rebellion, they embraced the Jedi.
Right.
And the only Force user in the Empire was, Vader. until the last movie. I mean, Palpatine was a Force user, but we didn't know that until the last movie, right? So my idea in Star Wars when it came out originally was the rebellion versus the Empire was kind of like religion versus science.
True. That's how.
Right. So when Qui-Gon is bringing midichlorians into it, they're kind of cutting into that religion aspect of the Jedi and making it scientific.
They're almost trying to scientifically prove religion in a way.
Yeah, and that's in hindsight, I don't mind it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But at the time, it did bother me, and that was the reason that it did.
Because science and religion can walk hand in hand. They don't. One isn't mutually exclusive of the other, or whatever. You can. There is science that can prove things that are religious, and some things take. Faith is a form of science if you think about it in a different kind of way. You believe in.
I like what Thor said about it. Like the things that you call science, we call magic.
Yeah.
I was put into perspective of the Big Bang Theory, and I always thought to myself, because I believe in like Lord Jesus Christ and Savior, Bibles, all that kind of stuff, just to make it short. But was that God maybe did make the Big Bang Theory? It was the form of creation that had to start. And boom,
that's exactly how I feel. Yeah, because there's a Big Bang Theory. Well, somebody had to make it happen. Somebody had to create that. It didn't just do that. So even if it did just do that, someone had to. I'm always looking for the beginning, and so I think.
Well, and a lot of people, a lot of non-believers, they tend to take inconsistencies and impossibilities in the Bible as proof that it's not accurate. And I'm like, well, come on, man. You have to look at the Bible and think about it as, this is a translation of an ancient script by men in power. And naturally, they're going to put things in it to ensure that they keep their power.
But I can prove a couple things. I can prove that being a parent kind of softens you up. Because look at Old Testament God before he had Jesus. He was flooding the world, and he was a little kind of angry. Then he gets a kid, and he kind of lightens up a little bit, Oh, yeah. But then I can prove that Jesus was a single man. Because what wife would let her husband go off for 40 days and 40 nights, turning water into wine in the desert with 12 of his best friends? Come on now. He was not married.
Hey, Ed, Prophet, and Sergeant, I got to leave. I'm going to go do that thing over yonder. But thank you, Ed, for taking
Thank you for being here. I
appreciate it.
I guess we'll see you on Saturday or tomorrow. That's tomorrow, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep, tomorrow night.
Thank you for stopping by.
9 p.m. Eastern. We'll be on Sergeant Curtis Schultz's channel, ranking the movies of 1980.
Yay. We got our list. We're ready to rock. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, MT. Right. Take care.
You sure you don't want to make that 1980 and a half?
Well, and if we want to tie this religion conversation into Deadpool 3, he did claim to be Marvel Jesus like 4 or 5 times throughout the film.
He did.
Yeah.
I love the meme with Homelander where he was talking about, and I can't remember what episode it was from, where he was talking about, you need me, and he's like yelling at everybody, and they're like, you need me to be here and protect you. And it said, this is how Marvel feels with RDJ right now coming back. Yeah. He's like, you had no one to turn to, and you needed me. And it's, that Joe Rogan interview keeps coming back to haunt Marvel, doesn't it? That he did not too long after. I remember watching it when it came out and several times since, where he said to Robert Downey Jr., he's like, okay, he's like, they're going to go, here's what's going to happen. He's like, Marvel's going to do a couple of movies and they're going to tank. And then they're going to start up that time machine again and they're going to figure out a way to bring you back. And he's like, okay, if that's true, they're going to do that. He's like, wouldn't you feel cheapened? He said, dude, I'm telling you, the moment you walk through that portal and people see that it's you, all is forgiven. They're going to just, I don't think Disney's, I really think like they've gone so close to the edge with ruining things and just misaligning things. it's going to take even more acting out of Robert Downey Jr. to really pull Marvel out of this, you know. And it's a shame one actor has to do it, but he is.
Well, they're seeing it.
Yeah, and I want to pivot to this as part of our discussion on Deadpool and Wolverine about anchor beings. And if you look in real Marvel life, if you look beyond the movies, isn't RDJ really the anchor being of Marvel? I mean, the MCU would be nothing without him as an actor, and him having to come back. And it's just like the Thanos quote in Endgame: "You couldn't live with your You couldn't live with your failures, and it brought you back to me." You know, and it's so like life imitating art. I mean, I saw some, and I wanted to get your theories on this that I saw about who could be the anchor being of the MCU, I guess the 616 universe. There were different ones that, obviously they said Iron Man, Tony Stark. That makes sense.
Well, and in the Doctor Strange movie, they talk about fixed points, right?
Right.
Or in the What If show, right? In the What If show, the Doctor Strange episode, why he couldn't save Christine, because her death was a fixed point. Right. And that's what they said about Iron Man in Endgame. His death is a fixed point and could not be undone.
Right.
Right.
I agree. And that sounds like an anchor being to me, the definition of one, you know?
Agreed.
And now the possibilities I just saw recently floated around. There was a very good video on it, and they made very good points for Doctor Strange being an anchor being because, you know, all of his mystical arts throughout the multiverses. Okay. Who else did they say? And I'm going to forget who they mentioned now. I should have wrote it down. But there were other ones besides just Tony Stark. Me personally, I'm all for Tony Stark being an anchor being. Somebody said Wanda could be an anchor being because, you know, the No More Mutants kind of thing. And, you know, if we're bridging other galaxies or other, you know, whatever universes. What are your thoughts? Do you think the obvious choice is the right choice for the anchor being? Even though they're saying, I think in Wolverine, didn't they? Well, his universe was different. His was 1,000 and something, right? I think.
Yeah.
So his was that Wolverine, obviously.
I think Steve Rogers was probably an anchor being in the MCU.
That was one of the.
And here's why I say that, right? And a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute. How did, you know, if you can't go back and change the past, then how did Steve go back and live a life with Agent Carter? And I say, you know, my argument against that is he was always meant to do that, right? Because if you look back at Captain America, the Winter Soldier, when he goes to visit Peggy in the hospital,
right, and
she talks about like she was married, and you see the photos, but you never see her husband's face, right? And when she sees Steve, she's not surprised he's alive. She's surprised he's so young.
That's a good point.
Right? When she's in the bed, she's like, Steve, you're so young.
And somebody said that she was that Peggy herself time traveled because they showed her in the TVA in Loki season 2, like somebody escorting in, and just like in the very back, it looks like Peggy. So like maybe she took a time pad and went to another time in reality.
Well, see, when you get into Peggy Carter, I think Peggy Carter is also an anchor being, but not for 616. Peggy is an anchor being in the universe that she became Captain Carter.
Could be, yeah.
Right, where Steve Rogers was the scrawny dude in the Hydra Stomper armor.
Right.
Like in that universe, Peggy's the anchor being instead of Steve.
Right.
You know, much like Black Widow was the anchor being in that universe with Hawkeye.
Right. And I love, even though they did skew a little woke on that, you know, I still enjoyed both seasons of the What Ifs. I'm ready for a third season. I was all on board with that.
Oh, I love the What If series, man. That stuff is fantastic.
Those are like some of my favorite comics are What Ifs, and it was just like a What If comic, totally. Scultz.
Yeah, and you know, each What If comic represents another universe in the Marvel multiverse.
Yeah. Curtis, what was your thoughts on the anchor being?
Oh man.
Or do you have any?
You guys named a lot that I think of. I don't know why. It might not be a popular, and a lot of people will not agree, but for some reason, there's something about Bucky to me that he's an anchor being that just hasn't. They haven't done nothing where he died yet or anything like that. Right. But there's just something there to me. It feels like he's an anchor being.
That could be. So
you could make the argument that Steve Rogers would never have become Captain America without James Buchanan Barnes.
That's true.
Right? Because would Steve have developed his code of honor had he not learned it from Bucky as a child?
Right.
And fighting, him and Bucky fighting, and then learning that, he doesn't like bullies and standing up to bullies and all that. He kind of has his own power, Even though he was a scrawny kid, he had that heart of gold. He would be the one to jump on the wire where Tony Stark would cut the wire, right?
And that's one of my favorite scenes in the first Avenger.
Yeah. When
Tommy Lee Jones throws the grenade and Steve dives on it.
Right.
Like, oh, that scene is so amazing.
Because his actions spoke louder than any words he could have said. Yeah.
Right. And Tommy Lee Jones' response to it was great. He's still small.
Because that's Tommy Lee Jones. You're not going to impress him no matter what you do. This is how he is. Yeah.
He's the same in every movie.
He is.
He's great.
And Josh Brolin played an amazing young Tommy Lee Jones in Men in Black 3.
Yes, he did. That was perfect.
And what film?
Men in Black 3.
Oh, gosh, you're right. I forgot about that.
It's actually my favorite of the Men in Black movies.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, for me, in order for a movie to be amazing, it has to strike an emotional chord in me. Right? And Men in Black 3 was the only one that really hit that emotional chord with me. Right? When you find out that the reason that Tommy Lee Jones, that Agent K has been looking out for Jay all that time was because his father gave his life to save him.
It's pretty powerful.
That's amazing. And that's why the Deadpool movies are so great. Each Deadpool movie has that emotional scene in it where, hell, Deadpool 2 made me cry.
Yeah, it was, it was done so well as a cohesive story. I think Deadpool 2 is a little bit more cohesive of a story than the third Deadpool. But God, the third Deadpool was so much fun. They both are.
Yeah, the third Deadpool is easily the most fun of the trilogy for sure.
Yeah.
But the second one is just it's a masterpiece of cinema. It gives you, like, it hits all the beats, right? And I knew it was gonna be that type of movie. Like, a lot of people would say you get your emotional bit when she dies, like in the beginning of the film. But I say it's when Deadpool goes up to the kid and he's like, did they hurt you? Which ones? And he fucking kills that dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then Colossus tackles him. And the best line in any Deadpool movies in that one where, he's working with Cable and he's like, only besties execute pedophiles together.
And that was, that man was meant to be Nathaniel Essex, which is meant to be sinister.
Yes.
In there, which they didn't turn into anything, but
well, and that's unfortunate too, because I think an underrated X-Men universe movie that nobody gives any credit to, but I thought it was amazing, is New Mutants.
Yeah, New Mutants was good.
They did the Demon Bear saga in that, and I think they did it fantastically.
Yeah, I wasn't too much into that mythology.
Did you just Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You're fine. And when that came out, I was like, I remember that movie took forever to come out. When it came out, I think I saw it at a drive-in movie, so it wasn't probably as great experience as in a theater. So it was okay, but there are parts of it I liked. Parts I was like,
Did you guys like the TV series Legion?
I loved.
I loved Legion.
Legion.
That was like Mr. Robot if you took your if you missed one frame of that show, you were lost, or you were just like, it was so mind bending. And
you had to be glued, like
I would
boom.
love them to bring that actor and bring him in and do the whole. That would set up what the Age of Apocalypse, wouldn't it? Because that's where he'd kill Xavier because Xavier jumps in his psychic blast. I would love to see them bring him in, David Haller, and because I mean he would be so omnipotent with so many abilities that he has. I mean, I love the run up to Age of Apocalypse. I have all those comics. I have all the Age of Apocalypse stuff. I would love
Do you want to shoot for like maybe December sometime? We can do a review on that show.
Yeah.
Legion, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and how they did the Sandman, not Sandman, was it? The
Shadow King.
Shadow King.
Shadow King,
It was
yes.
really good. But it was just
And I love Aubrey Plaza, man. She's fucking
She
amazing.
was great, man. She was amazing. And
I think Caveman at the time of watching, I was like, dude, you need to really watch. And he's like, dude, that's a kind of shot out show. But, I was like, man, you really enjoy it. Because it's just, once you get into it, it's such a mind, what?
a mind. It's what Legion is. It's like exactly what he is, and he's doing it through the TV. You're like, shit.
And you can,
but I think
going through all that,
Yeah.
I think up to Endgame, Marvel only had one movie that was a miss. An all-out miss. There were a couple movies that weren't like amazing, but there was no bad movies except for Captain Marvel.
Well, no, Captain Marvel. Well, you might call it a miss, but at the time it was $1 billion film because it was right in the middle of Infinity War and Endgame. So even people that didn't like it, they kind of forced you to like Captain Marvel and set her up to be like the Superman of the universe, And then thankfully it fell apart. The second one was terrible, It was
the Marvels is just it's probably the worst Marvel movie ever made.
It is their least performance.
Well, the worst MCU movie.
Right. And it just
I can't say the worst Marvel movie because Dolph Lundgren's Punisher and Howard the Duck exist.
I would almost put it above Howard the Duck. I just really did not get Howard the Duck ever.
Oh, that movie's awful, and yet Curtis and I know people that love it.
Yeah, it's so much that he got. He was in game.
Yeah, voiced by Seth Green.
Cool.
Once you go duck, you're out of luck.
Jesus.
No, but post Endgame, I think they're probably about 50-50, right? Because if you look at the TV shows, I loved WandaVision, I loved Loki, I loved Hawkeye, I loved Moon Knight.
I loved Moon Knight. I tell you, Oscar Isaac.
I hated Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I hated 90% of She-Hulk.
I completely hated She-Hulk.
Miss Marvel was just meh to me.
What was that one? What was that one with the Indian girl or the Native?
That was Miss Marvel. That was Miss Marvel.
That was Echo. That was
Echo.
Oh, Echo. Yeah, I didn't even watch that one.
I thought it hated it.
I thought it could have been good, but it was really bad. Like, they did something to it.
I mean, you can't have your hero murdering people.
Why not?
Well, but you can't have your hero murdering innocent people. Let me put it that way.
And it was still another film that was checking boxes, to get certain people of representation as heroes. And I'm like, that's fine and dandy, but it shouldn't take away from the storyline. And the storyline was weak to begin with for me. I didn't like Echo at all. It was probably the worst. For me, Hawkeye was the Kate Bishop show, and it was that whole line of, let's put a main character in his show, and he's not the hero of it. And, we got to...
Well, but in the comics, Kate Bishop goes by Hawkeye.
I get that. And there's a precedence in the comics for these shows, but the thing is, it just didn't work for me. It just,
I don't know, man. I could watch a whole movie of nothing but Kate Bishop and Yelena Belova. Like a buddy hero movie with those two. I'd love it.
I enjoyed, it was too many years too late, but the Black Widow film, and it was bad
Oh,
timing.
Black Widow is a fantastic movie.
I enjoyed it, but on replays, it's not as bad. It's not as good as I originally liked it. You know, I don't like it as much.
Yeah,
but
I agree
still
with you on
enjoy
that.
it. Yeah, and it drags in a lot of parts, and they try to get humorous and funny in it, and they, you know, and then there's, you know,
I don't know. I think Yelena steals the show in that movie.
yeah, I'd say that. But once again, another main character not being the star of their own show, you know, then why? I know these were passing the torch shows. Like Hawkeye was for Kate Bishop. This was for Elena to pass the thing. But that
Yeah.
Black Widow film would have meant so much more and been so more popular and powerful had it come out sometime before Endgame, before you knew.
Well, it should have come out before Civil War.
Exactly. It should have come. You're right. It should have come out. We should
Because
see that Iron
chronologically,
Man-
it happens right before Civil War. Because it ends with her getting the green vest from her sister that she's wearing in Civil War and dyeing her hair blonde.
Right.
You know, and that's Black Widow in Civil War.
And wasn't that was right after Iron Man 2, because she was in Iron Man 2 where we kind of
Well, Iron Man 3.
2. She was in 2.
No. Iron Man 2 takes place in Fury's Big Week, same time with Hulk 1 and Thor 1.
But she was in 2.
She was in 2, but that's not
Oh, okay. Oh, I
like
see what you're
chronologically, that's not where it fits in. It
Okay.
fits in right before Civil War.
saying. Okay.
It's after Iron Man 3.
So would it have fit in between Iron Man 2 and Civil War? Is that what you're saying?
Chronologically, it's the very first. It would have come right before Civil War.
Okay. So but it would have been after Iron Man.
Because when
that's
Natasha leaves that movie, when she walks out at the end of the Black Widow movie, she's going to meet up with Steve to go get Vision at the train station.
Okay.
Hey, real quick, I want you guys to see that Prophet Pool's a puppet.
You're a ridiculous troll. No, but the MCU movies that came after, you know, I really loved Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. I really loved Spider-Man: No Way Home.
No Way Home was great. It was fantastic. It was everything.
Obviously, Deadpool 3 is amazing.
Yep.
And here's an unpopular opinion, but I actually liked Quantumania, even though I think all of the women in the movie were really terrible people.
I hate what they
Like
did
they
with
just
Kang.
lied to each other over and over again.
This is another point that I wanted to make earlier when I was thinking about when we get Fantastic Four. Obviously, Reed their son. What's the kid's name? Richards.
Nathan Richards.
Nathan Richards becomes. I just said the character.
Well, after Secret Wars, Nathan Richards is the one. He creates a bunch of universes,
He becomes
right?
the
Because
time
Reed
guy,
and Reed.
Kang. He becomes Kang the Conqueror, or a version of Kang.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually,
feel
it's
like-
not him that becomes Kang. It's his grandson that becomes Kang.
It's his grandson. Are you sure? Well, you probably.
Yes, it's Nathaniel Richards' grandson in the comic books.
Oh, okay. I thought it was him. Because I know he becomes,
No, it's his grandson.
I do like when they had him in there and he created the Pocket Universe, and inside of when they did the Onslaught saga and they had X-Man from the Age of Apocalypse universe in there, and he
Which is basically a young Cable.
yes, and I have all those X-Man run. I was one of my favorite comics spun out of Age of Apocalypse, but having his character in there, and then and then he absorbed Cable, and then he had Xavier trapped in there, Onslaught. It was really cool, and he creates the Pocket Universe that the Fantastic Four is essentially in, and all that. So he
Well, the reason that Nathaniel Richards is so powerful is because he comes from two metahuman parents, but then on top of that, he had the X gene. He was a mutant as well. So you've got two different metahuman bloods making you, and then on top of that, you mutate. That's why he was such an omnipotent being in the comics.
right.
And his little sister, Valeria, is the only person in the MCU that's smarter than Reed Richards.
Because of, and I wonder with Robert Downey Jr. coming back, are we going to have, and he's going to be Victor Von Doom, who's a smart guy in his own right, but Reed Richards has now or what's our actor? He's going to now be the smartest man in the universe. And the reason we didn't get a smarter Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner is because Robert Downey Jr. wanted Iron Man to be for his character to be the smartest one in the MCU. So that's why we didn't get Ant-Man later on, and that's why Ultron came from Tony, which I like the way it panned out. But it didn't come from Ant-Man, who we hadn't established anyway at that point, So,
yeah, because in the comics, Hank Pym is the one that creates Ultron.
Exactly, yeah. And so,
but that's the thing about Doctor Doom, because Doctor Doom is basically the best of 3 different worlds, right? So Doctor Doom has all the intelligence of Reed Richards, all the tech ability of Tony Stark, and all the mysticism of Doctor Strange.
I never thought of that part of it, but you're right, yeah. So, he is, you're not going to defeat Doom. It's, very difficult to defeat Doom.
Doom. Meanwhile, back at the Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading Avengers versus X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony Stark goes up against Magneto, and Magneto's like, idiot, Iron Man's really going to try and fight the master of magnetism? And Iron Man's like, the suit's plastic, dumbass, and flies Magneto up into space, knocks him out.
That's a Tony Stark thing to do.
Yeah.
I am Iron Man. Cool.
Yeah, that ended poorly though. Like, I will say in the aftermath of AVX,
Is that
like, because I've always hated Cyclops, and in the aftermath there was a great scene where Cyclops is in prison and he's got the power dampening collar on, and he gets attacked by these other like prisoners, and he beats the living shit out of them. And his cellmate's like, dude, I thought your powers were I-beams. He's like, yeah, but I've been training like military for like 30 years.
Scott's a badass. He finally in X-Men 97 got his credit that I think as a character, Cyclops deserved,
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm thinking of maybe because I know y'all got 11 o'clock stream. I don't want to probably give you a little break between.
We don't. We don't have one.
Oh, y'all aren't.
No, not tonight. Not tonight.
Oh, that's not tonight? Okay, I thought it was tonight. Okay.
Well, it's not for us. Another channel that some of our friends are on is going on tonight.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't
but that's not us.
Okay, well, we can stay. I love to talk, so. What else? What are your thoughts then? Any more Wolverine, Deadpool thoughts about the film, or?
Do we think we're going to be another Wolverine Deadpool film?
Well, here's the thing, right? I think that we will definitely see X-23 again.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole point of Deadpool asking the TVA to go and rescue her. Right? Because it would be a waste to not bring back that character again. That character was a fantastic character in the Logan movie.
Right.
It was a fantastic character in the Deadpool movie. Mm-hmm. It's a strong female character that doesn't, lean into all the clown wig brigade nonsense.
Right.
So I feel like, not bringing her back would be a waste. Do I want her to be the new Wolverine? Not necessarily. I'd like them to recast all the X-Men, but there's no reason that X-23 can't survive Secret Wars and, be part of the new X-Men universe going forward.
What happens though if we get a brand new let's say we get a brand new X-Men team, which we probably need to, and there's no standout. There's no Robert Downey Jr. and no Chris Evans type, no Mark Ruffalo type. You know what I mean? What if we end up with a okay cast? What if we don't have breakouts? That's my worry. If we can get somebody that's a new and upcoming artist that can, do another 10 years, you know what I'm saying? Actor.
Right.
I hope we get the right people, and that's where casting always surprises you because you never know who you're going to get and how they're going to really rise to the occasion.
Well, look at Hugh Jackman. He was a surprise.
Heath Ledger.
No one had ever heard of him before X-Men.
Heath Ledger.
Right.
Nobody wanted Michael Keaton as Batman. I remember that talk.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
He's a comedian.
Yeah,
What are you
I
talking
think-
about? He can't be Batman.
I think when they're recasting the X-Men, they should probably take the Star Wars approach, right? Where you get like a couple of big names to play like not main characters, but your whole X team should be unknowns.
right.
You know what I mean? Find new people, make some new stars, make people that don't have all that Hollywood dirt on them famous.
Right. No baggage and no preconceived notions. They're just coming in fresh, and then they hopefully turn it up and turn out in a good way.
Well, they kind of did that with She-Hulk. Actually, they did do that with She-Hulk.
Yeah, but She-Hulk had like,
She-Hulk was hot trash, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as they had She-Hulk
It was,
twerking in the
it was.
courtroom, I'm like, nah, I'm done with this show.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a fucking lawyer. You should know better than to twerk in court.
Right.
Right.
Just I don't even know if I saw that episode, but I see that all the time, and that's what people remember from that show. But I just remember it was just so I didn't like the way Daredevil was kind of emasculated in that show. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see Daredevil in
That's
the
the
red
only reason why I
costume.
watched it, because I was waiting for Daredevil to come back
And then-
from the Netflix series.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one thing was kind of unrealistic about it, right? Because the actress they got to play She-Hulk, she's an attractive woman.
yeah.
And to like
It worked.
try and pass off the notion that men are so shallow that they only want to have bang her if she's She-Hulk is nonsense to me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was
You know, the one
more
episode of
rad.
She-Hulk that I did like was the one where she went to Blonsky's camp, and you got to see all those B-list villains.
Yeah. But even when she was training with her cousin, and
I don't even remember that part.
that was the first episode
B
or
was
whatever, where she was training with Mark Ruffalo and
Yeah.
she had to upstage him. She had to make a point that she was always better than Hulk, and she suffered more because of how men have treated her in her life. And I'm not taking away from her suffering, but I don't know. Bruce Banner went through
I
some
will.
pretty horrific stuff as a character. There's just so much about. I don't even want to talk about She-Hulk. I even want to change the green on my screen here. It makes me angry. But that was hot.
Yeah,
trash.
that was
It was
when she's like yelling at Bruce,
Yeah, that was my point.
like it was very cringy.
It was hot trash.
It was
Sorry,
trash.
Rocket.
It was totally hot trash, and so it just that show did not land for me. As I was saying,
But Shang-Chi was really good, and Shang-Chi was post-Endgame.
Yeah, that wasn't bad, actually. That's pretty good.
I enjoyed Shang-Chi. I didn't dislike it, but
I like the actor from it, from
Simu-
Him's Convenience.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, there were a lot of good action sequences in it.
And I'm trying to think. For me, some of the standout of the Disney Plus shows were I didn't know anything going into Moon Knight, and I loved that show. I thought the show was good, except when they had the action sequences, they would turn away, and then you'd see the after effects. I was like, no, I want to see the actual fighting. So
Yeah, exactly.
they did kind of pull their camera angles on that one, but
Well, they were trying to not clue in, that he was a split personality right away.
and I was getting into the mysticism of it, so it was interesting. It held my attention, and for me, WandaVision was the best thing they did right out of the gate, and probably the first and part of the second season of Loki. There was a bit of Loki season 2 where I had to push myself through the episodes. I was like, I am going to watch this.
I still haven't finished watching Loki season
But
2.
I loved both seasons of Loki.
But I did like the way they ended it. I don't want to ruin it for Curtis there, but
Oh, it won't ruin it for me. It's been a year and a half or
something like that.
I've had time to watch it.
And
I have a rule: 3 to 4 days. If you ain't watched something, it's free. It's free for it's free fall.
Yeah.
I give it a month.
I don't even give it a month. There's no way.
But there are people out there that never watched a Disney Plus show, that never had Disney Plus. That you have to make, just like Wolverine and Deadpool, you have to make it accessible for the average person coming off the street to be able to pick it up and understand what's going on. And you know, they mix some of their TVA in there. That's the Disney influence, but
Well, my
with Wolverine.
yeah, my thought is like if it means that much to you that a spoiler is going to hurt you that much, you should see it within 3 or 4 days.
Right. Yeah, you should. You know, if you
You'll
can't go
find a way.
opening
If
night,
you want to see it that bad, you'll find a way.
right? You know, and
Another post Endgame movie that was great was Thor Ragnarok.
Yes.
And then Love and Thunder, they had to lean in too hard to the last. That you have Gore the God.
Oh no, Ragnarok was pre-Endgame.
No. I didn't mean. I meant Love and Thunder from that point on. Yeah, I enjoyed the revitalization of the Thor character, and we basically got a World War Hawk kind of thing in there, a little bit. You know.
Well, Love and Thunder was pretty bad overall.
It was pretty bad overall.
The only scene that I really enjoyed in that was the scene where he was in the Hall of the Gods with Russell Crowe playing Zeus.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was terrible, him playing Zeus. And, you know, I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was terrible, but
I thought that was a terrible part of the film. But you had Gore the God Butcher. You had already set. It had a great beginning, great potential. Kind of like, and it's a little different with Iron Man 3. My theory of Iron Man 3 has changed over time. I like it now, where at first I did not like it because I thought it came off as a very intensely scary movie, Iron Man 3, just like Thor Love and Thunder started off as. And then they just kind of just go another way with, you know, they almost go a comedy route on Iron Man 3. But it's still, Iron Man 3 has grown on me for the building up, you know, or the post New York incident 2012, you know, post Avengers.
See, I loved Iron Man 3 right out the gate. And here's why. Because it showed that Tony Stark is Iron Man even without the suit.
Yes. And he didn't need the suit. By the end of that movie, he wasn't the suit, you know? And just like Steve Rogers says to him, he's like, take the suit off, what are you? You know, and he's got the famous line, billionaire, philanthropist, whatever, playboy. And but the thing is, he learns to be a hero.
Right, he left out alcoholic.
Alcoholic, yeah. Demon in a Bottle, that whole story, it was basically part of Iron Man 2. But for Thor Love and Thunder, they took that scary villain and just kind of wimped him out and just went with a comedy kind of vibe that really didn't fly. I mean, and the fact they were doing kind of the 80s glam hair metal kind of rock and roll feel of it, I was getting that feel of it. I was like, this could work. This could really work and be terrifying at the same time. But then Taika Waititi just leaned so heavily into the jokes. And by the time you get to Zeus, it's just so played out and it's just so bad.
See, I think the problem with Love and Thunder is Christian Bale was in a different movie from the rest of the cast.
That's a great way of putting it. Yes, he was. He was in a totally different movie.
I don't like Christian Bale as an actor. I think he sucks.
But
my personal opinion.
And from what I learned, because I read up a little bit on Gore the God Butcher without trying to ruin the film for me, and then he didn't really do anything except kidnap some kids. What is he, Captain Hook? Unlike,
yeah,
you know,
like out of the Batmans, he's like my worst Batman.
Yeah, honestly, his Bruce Wayne is just his Patrick Bateman character from American Psycho.
Right, exactly.
But it's so hard not. Well, obviously the Joker's so damn good in there, Heath Ledger, that you can't. It elevates his performance. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. If you had a weaker,
I'm not saying the movie was bad. I'm just saying.
Right. If you had a weaker actor as Joker that didn't nail that the way they did and the way Nolan captured it, that could have been a bad Batman movie. We might have not got a third one, you know. But
yeah, that was a long one too. That was a long movie.
Yeah, but such a masterpiece. Dark Knight is, and to still kind of do it with Dark Knight Rises with Bane. I thought Tom Hardy was great as Bane, and
I did too.
And even Catwoman. That movie works.
Feel like you're in control.
Yeah, you got the voices down, man. I love it. But
I like how they had Scarecrow at towards the end.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
I want to see more Scarecrow.
Cillian Murphy, you know, what a great, great actor he turned out to be. He was always great.
Yeah.
But Nolan had such a great cast. What's the older actor that's 90? Michael, not Mike. Michael. What's his name? The butler.
Michael Caine.
Michael
Caine. Thank you, Michael Caine. I was gonna say Michael Keaton, but I know it's not him. Michael Caine. Yeah, such a great actor. He just got such a presence. So I mean, you had just such great acting.
Still, one of my favorite comedies is Michael Caine and Steve Martin, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh God, that's been a while since I've seen that. That is a good.
Great. It's great.
That is great.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
The con men get conned.
Yeah, the con men get conned.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Michael Caine. All the way back to like Zulu.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Where he was part of the 200-man unit of British soldiers that kept the entire Zulu army at bay for like a whole week or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like their version of the Alamo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Sparta. This is Sparta.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, well, and I've said that about Zack Snyder before too. The only time Zack Snyder makes a good story for his movies is when he doesn't have to write it. Right? Like, you look at the 300 and it's a great movie, but he basically took he took Frank Miller's comic book and used it as a storyboard. So he didn't have to write anything.
Right.
And the good version of The Watchmen, the Ultimate Edition, again, it's like the comic book is the storyboard almost 100%.
I tell you, Watchmen to this day still holds up. And it seems even more relevant the darker times get. It's like, it just seems, it was The Boys before The Boys was The Boys on Amazon.
Exactly, yeah.
It was the Dark Justice League, essentially. And
did you catch up on The Boys, Prophet?
I know where it's at now. Yeah. It's just
I caught up.
There's too much gross in it for me.
It really has gotten very overwhelmingly disgusting, and there were some things in this season that I didn't need to see, and I can't unsee now.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they do that are just for shock value.
We have flying pigs at one point or something. What were those?
Rams. They were sheep.
They can't do nothing.
Flying sheep.
I was like, what is going on here? And and I don't know. I'm getting tired of Butcher. He's just becoming the same character over and over again. I was like, stop being gruff and all this. I almost want him to be a different character. I don't know what. I like Carl Urban. I like his portrayal. But it's just, and the whole thing with seeing Jeffrey Dean Morgan, it's in his head. He's imagined the whole time. That was a good twist, but it's like, okay, let's move on. It's like.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dean, had they made the movie 10 years ago, I would have said he would have been the perfect Lobo for DC Comics.
Well, remember in what he played Bruce Wayne, which could have been a Flashpoint Bruce Wayne.
Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne.
Yeah. Thomas Wayne.
You guys watch it? I haven't watched it yet.
Which one?
The
Flashpoint.
Not Thomas Wayne, but it's the Butler. I think it's about the Butler.
Pennyworth. I haven't watched Pennyworth.
I started to watch it when it came on, and then something happens, like a lot of series, and then I forget.
Yeah.
I've got so many things queued up that I'll never even get to.
Yeah, I honestly forgot that show existed until you just mentioned it. Yeah, now I might have to go back and watch it.
Yeah. That's because I forgot.
Yeah.
I'm still.
I think it's pretty clear the best DC television show so far was Peacemaker.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I'm still waiting for season 2.
I did like. What was the young Batman?
Robert Pattinson?
Gotham. I liked Gotham.
Oh.
Yeah, Gotham was good.
I thought that was pretty good. Well done.
I watched it like every time it was on.
I did. And then they got kind of weird with Penguin and Joker, where it had a thing going on. Just like, oh my God, I don't know if y'all have seen Chris Gore. I was watching his video about it, a film threat about the new DC Cape Crusader the Penguin's a woman. I'm not
Yeah,
lying.
it sucks, man. It
so-
sucks.
Yeah, they
Man.
said there's 10 episodes, and they said you want to skip the first 7 of them, or just whatever, just do or like 9 and 10, or the first 8, and they're like, that's okay, but most of the time you've got women explaining to Bruce how Batman is bad, how Bruce is bad. It's like, I don't want to see all that. I'll just skip ahead. He said that's why they dropped it they sold it to Amazon DC instead of putting it on their on Max, where all their other stuff is on there.
Yeah, well, Amazon will put up any garbage. Just look at Rings of Power.
Yeah. Oh God, it's terrible.
Dude, that's good. What are you talking about?
Stop trolling.
Trolling. What?
Get back under your bridge and start asking riddles, damn it.
There you go.
Is it that time of year again? Is that supposed to be coming back out?
I think they put out some kind of preview for it or something for season 2. They spent.
I can't believe that got a season 2, man.
They spent so much money on that thing. Amazon's got to put it out. They have no choice. You know what I mean? And try to make a little something, but yeah, they just mess with the mythology.
Oh, it's obvious.
So
It's obvious. The Acolyte, that there is money laundered in that $180 million.
Well, and you could see in the second season of Rings of Power that they've made a slight attempt at course correction.
Yeah.
Right, because the female Black Dwarf King is only in like a fraction of the trailer.
Well, the
Galadriel is doing 0 war in the trailer.
Yeah, the new thing is she's not a warrior anymore. There's peace, and of course there's not. But
Well, because the thing is, in Tolkien's books, Galadriel was a pacifist from the start.
Yeah, I don't.
So them making her a fucking warlord was a terrible mistake.
Right. It makes no sense. No sense.
And you couldn't have found an attractive woman to play Galadriel?
But
Like
some of
Kate
the side
Blanchett
characters
was a goddess as Galadriel. She looked amazing as Galadriel.
But the thing
And then
is,
you get this girl that looks like she lives next door to you, and she was like the, freaking Valley Girl or something. Like, I don't need a Valley Girl to be Galadriel.
there's a
What are you
difference
doing?
when you make a for TV and a for the big screen? Because you have to spread everything out over these episodes. Obviously, the Disney Plus shows are like this. You dilute the message so much in what you could have said in maybe a movie or 2 length of time. Sometimes when you have too much time on your hands, you can get too creative and just go off script, way off script, like they did in Rings of Power. And they've just gotten so many things wrong. And it's just.
I mean, look, here's my argument, right? If you want to make Rings of Power, go ahead and make Rings of Power, but don't associate it with Tolkien's work.
Yeah, call it something else.
Right? Just call it something else. Make it your own thing. Why do you have to piggyback off someone else's amazing work?
Because they don't have any original ideas of their own. That's it. That's where a lot of this is going, and it just needs to. I mean, the pendulum's swinging backwards. The crazy wokeness. It's there's still, you realize things take about a year to funnel through to the marketplace. So even stuff like Captain America, they've got to put that out. They've already cost it. That film's already, the new Captain America is already about $400 million in the hole, and you got to get that it's going to come out. So there's still going to be stuff, because Disney went through and they secretly fired a bunch of like woke activists, actor directors, or whatever, producers I should say, throughout the company. And so it's going to take a good year for all that to filter out, in that content. And I think, Wolverine and Deadpool is a step in the right direction, and it's giving fans, when you can show the people who run the bottom line how they can make more money and do it consistently and get back on track, they will do anything. That the heck with the message, they will course correct until they get back in that money stream, and keep it flowing. And they didn't even, the thing is, they didn't have to do all this. And I'm kind of with you, Prophet Pool, on this, that.
Hey, what's up, Mark Cosplay?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Let's see. Oh, hey there. Sorry. So yeah, it's just about getting on track and getting back on the story, And I was saying, Prophet, that it's important, I think, that we had this sidestep because Marvel through Endgame was invincible. You couldn't touch anything without it turn into a $1 billion film. They had $1 billion plus films in 2019. There was nowhere to go but down. They didn't have.
Yeah, because you know what? I'll bring it up right now. Let's see. I'm looking at Box Office Mojo. Because if you look at like worldwide grosses all time and the top 10 like worldwide grosses of all time.
Plus before 2020, you had China, their big box office. They were, and a lot of films were starting to be made, like the Transformers of the time was being made with more of a focus to that international audience, where into Bayformers essentially, Michael Bay's Transformers, and so and the market shifted that way, and then you saw a lot of films trying to pander to an overseas audience because they would get like the fast movies, I don't know what we left off, Fast 7, Fast 9, whatever, movies. When you get to those, they're just pandering to that overseas market.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to end up with Inside Out 2 is going to be the #1 film of the year. It's already like 600 million domestic. You're going to it's going to be over $1 billion. Well, it is. It's like 1.5 billion. It's, I think, almost in the top 10, if not of all time. It's getting there. Wolverine and Deadpool will get very close to it. It'll be over $1 billion very soon, very, very soon. But they're going to pull that from theaters after a 45-day window, which is crazy of Marvel to do that. So it's.
You mean Disney?
Disney, yeah, Disney's going to pull the legs from under it, which makes no sense. You leave that thing and let it ride for as long as it wants to ride. You keep that thing in theaters and keep chugging out the money.
They did that with Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, three of the top 10 highest grossing films of all time are MCU movies.
In Infinity War, Endgame, and was it Lion King?
Endgame, Infinity War, and No Way Home.
No Way Home. Yes, of course, No Way Home.
And then Avengers, the first Avengers is number 11.
It just got displaced by like at 1.5 billion by Inside Out 2, which is a Disney film. So it's but yeah, I don't know that we'll ever see the days that we saw in, going up to 2020. And of course, the pandemic changed everything and messed up. It pushed this. We were about 5 years pushed up from where streaming ended up being. We were probably going to be getting into streaming about next year, but it all got pushed. Yeah. And then that messed up how people go and see movies. And it also made people realize as expensive as things are, no matter what, the TV tells you, just look at your wallet and you can see how expensive things are. But it's also shifted the dynamic of how people go to films. They're having to be retrained to go out, but they will not go out for just your simple films now. Like something crappy as Borderlands, as horrible as that's apparently, and as bad as it's going to do. People won't go out for films like that. They'll only go out for a Spider-Man No Way Home, an event film. They'll come out for the big tent poles, but they're not going to come out for a lot of good films that are out there that they're going to miss. They'll wait till they come.
Well, I think that there's a lot of factors to it too. First, COVID trained people to know that, hey, you can still watch these things without, leaving the house.
Right.
Right. And why would you, want to go to the theater for a movie that's not a big event film just to have kids throwing popcorn in your hair and kicking the back of your seat.
And on their damn cell phones and,
Yeah, all texting and talking and all this bullshit. And
literally,
and even if you go to like a midnight showing, somebody brought their screaming baby. On top of that,
exactly.
you tack on the fact that like the trust in Hollywood, in the A-list Hollywood, has gone down the toilet because of all these allegations coming out. And people are starting to think, damn, if you're an A-lister in Hollywood, odds are you're some kind of pervert.
Yeah.
And then streaming is another factor, right? So you take those three things, and it's no wonder that, like, you know, the Hollywood, you know, machine is crumbling.
Plus, you add to that the fact that everything costs more: concessions, tickets. Most families can't afford to take their kids out. If you've got more than one kid, you can't even afford to take them out. Hell, you can even afford to hardly go on a date without bankrupting.
$20 for a bucket of popcorn.
You know, that's crazy. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
And I know they got to make their money on concessions, but it's a little bit ridiculous at this point, you know. And it's,
well, I worked at a movie theater, and all their money comes from concessions to pay.
It does.
The rent, the electric,
and you see another
employees.
thing. A lot of these people owning their streaming services, except somebody like Sony that is smart and still kind of farms them out to everybody, which is what, if you've noticed, Marvel's done to FX and put their stuff out there again like they used to. But a lot of these people that Disney controlled the whole flow of things, even into their parks. I mean, they had every way to promote their stuff, and it really didn't have to go to the theater. You could bypass the theater. And during the early parts of the pandemic, that worked because nobody could go anywhere. And then when things started to open back up, they thought people would just rush back to the cinema, but they didn't. By then, everything was more expensive. Everything was just, you know, people had changed, and they've been, you know, scarred and
Yeah.
Well, not to mention, it's hard to find a mainstream movie that doesn't have an agenda behind its storytelling.
that is another factor as well. And
You know, and on top of that, other countries, you know, have kind of caught up to us in the special effects game.
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean,
there's
look
a
at
lot of good stuff coming out of India and places like.
well, look at Korea.
Yeah,
You know, you got films like Train to Busan.
I love
Oh,
that
yeah.
film. That
You
was
know,
such a good film.
and Parasite. You know, like these are amazing
Parasite
movies
is
coming out of
amazing.
Korea.
Look at Godzilla +1 or what.
Oh, -1 is so amazing.
so
Yeah.
much better with
You know, and if we're going to
$10
talk about
million.
Japan,
The black
you
and
also
white
have
one
to
just
talk
came
about
out,
the fact that Japan's manga is outselling American comic books 10-1 at this point.
No, and you know we have a group of people that grew up totally on Avengers. Well, they're grown now. They're in their 20s at least, maybe older. So they've kind of moved on. You know, they grew up on Star Wars or Disney Star Wars, and they've been kind of burned by that. You know, lackluster Star Wars, and so
Well, you look at our generation in the same way, right? When we were kids, you know, we were all about Star Wars. We were all about Back to the Future. You know, all these like movies that were iconic in our childhoods, right? And we latched onto them strong when we were kids. Then we got to be like, you know, in our mid-teens, and all of a sudden, you know, dating and social life became the important thing, right? And then once we got into our 30s and 40s, we got back into our geek culture, you know, to push the nostalgia button. So right now, the kids that grew up on the original MCU are in that social life, you know, stage of life.
and
They don't care about this stuff.
And for the first time ever in like the entertainment history, video games way outsell movies. You know, they make more money than movies. And kids have distractions. You have TikTok. A kid would rather stay on there and play on TikTok and go to a you know, than go to a movie. You know, they don't want to. They don't. And the attention spans are -0. You know, -100 at this point. You know, nobody's
Well,
got an
when we
attention
were
span.
kids, you know, and the teacher would ask us, what do we want to be when we grow up? Our answers were stuff like, you know, a rock star, an actor, a policeman, a fireman, an astronaut.
Yeah,
Nowadays, like half the kids are saying an influencer.
an influencer. Yeah, yeah. But who's going to do the work? Nobody. It's like, yeah. Everybody. wants
Well,
to
and
be
that's
an
why I
influencer.
tell all the younger people in my life, I'm like, bro, go to trade school, learn to be a plumber, learn to be an electrician, learn to be a mechanic, because nobody's learning this shit right now. And, you know, 20 years from now, when the current generation retires, you're going to be able to charge an arm and a leg for those services because they're not going to be able to find it anywhere else.
South Park did a great episode on that. You remember with the people with the plumbers and they were riding.
I do
riding
remember
around
that,
in,
yes.
like the limousines and stuff like that, and flying the airplanes. It was like hilarious. But it's so true. It's so true. Our society's upside down, and you know.
Yeah, South Park get an assassination one yet, or a Kamala Harris taking over yet?
Oh God, I hope not.
You know it's coming, bro.
Well, please don't let the Simpsons do one. We don't need any more of that.
Yeah.
Predicting the future for us. Give me some good news for a change, please. Something good. But yeah, it's just society's so upside down. And I'm sure our generation before us, when they got to our age, thought these kids are crazy, you know. Whatever.
Well, that's like the cycle of generations, right?
It is.
You have like a period of prosperity, and the parents, like, they want their kids to be happy, so they let their kids think however they want without, like, filling their heads with like how the system works. And then you get a whole generation of protesters, and then the protesters grow up and realize why things are the way they are and how they need to, to stay in order to function. And we get another period of prosperity until their kids grow up and like start questioning everything.
But I'm not going to badmouth a Gen Zer, because those are the people taking care of me in the nursing home one day. So I'm going to be nice to them. But,
They ain't gonna do that. What are you talking about?
yeah.
Works for them.
I'm sorry, there'll be robots taking care of me, but
Right.
Exactly. We'll have AI taking care of us by then.
there you go. And then it'll just terminate. Just get rid of us and
Exactly.
start over.
Right? We'll be like the Eskimos. Just get on the ice floe, old man.
Yeah,
You're not useful anymore.
that's right. Well, I mean, being in my mid 50s and going through a job hunt and a career change, I feel it sometimes. I feel like, I literally went to an interview and I was candid with one of them, and I said, I have so many skills and so much to offer, but I was like, it's frustrating to be told that I'm overqualified and at the same time underqualified. I was like, I get that, but give me a chance here. Let me prove I've still got some viable skills, and so we'll see. But it kind of plays on your psyche when you get. I mean, I'm 54 now, so it kind of plays on your psyche when you get to that age, and all of a sudden you don't feel like you're that important, even though you are. You have your gifts and you find what your skills are, but you have a society that doesn't value you in the same way they valued you before.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird place to be in. It's not a place I thought I'd be in, and I'm going to make the best of it. And
I mean, it happens to everybody, man.
Yeah, it does, it does, yeah.
Because I spent my entire 20s like bartending, and I realized, bartending, because you're entirely dependent on tips for that job.
Yeah, and
and unfortunately, young, pretty people get tips better, even if they don't make as good a drink as you do.
Yeah, and I've been dancing on the
Right?
pole
Because
I've been dancing on the pole for 54 years now.
I'm just saying, stuff like that is a young man's game. You can't keep doing it as an older person.
Yeah. And I had that when I was in the film industry as a sound mixer, and I was like, I was probably, I don't know, maybe in my late 40s to 50s, and I'm like, you can't carry on all that equipment the way you used to. It's like you don't have the stamina to carry all this heavy equipment around and do all that. So you find something that you can work better with, and so I'm not afraid of retraining myself. So I've been kind of in that retraining phase of things, and so you just got to keep trying. You got to find something new, and I'm always embracing the newer technologies. But I know at times I feel like something happened, like because I don't think we've ever been in a time in America where technology has advanced so quickly in such short bursts, and AI was a thing that we always talked about, Terminator one day, that'll be in 2029. Oh, wait a minute. It's almost 2029 and we've already got AI. It's like,
Remember that movie WALL-E?
I do. Oh my gosh, that is a precursor of where we're all going to be, these big blobs sitting, in these comfortable chairs, pushing buttons, being fed through a straw. Unfortunately,
well, that's the future for the filthy rich. Unfortunately, the future for us, I'm not going to say for us, but for like the have-nots, is idiocracy.
Yeah, there's been a
right, because idiocracy is the lead up. Idiocracy is the lead up to WALL-E.
And there's
right what WALL-E is on Earth cleaning up at the beginning of the film. is the remains of Idiocracy's future.
And here's an unpopular thing to say, but I'll say it. I'm not afraid to say it. Is there's been an emasculation of guys. You know, our worth is like the hunter-gatherers, which we're kind of DNA programmed by. It's not valued anymore. It's not valued. We're not valued in the same sense. There's a lot of this generation of guys that worries me that are being brought up. They don't have confidence. I see 20-year-olds that I'm in school with that, you know, and we get along fine, but the social skills, not just the males, but the females as well. I see a lot. You'll see a few kids that are like super intelligent. And you're like, oh my God, they must be an android or something. They're so good. They are so on point. And I see a lot of those, but I see a majority of people that'll go through careers and they're in their 20s and they hardly have any social skills, and like talking with them. And it's not me necessarily talking with them, but it's just seeing them interact with others. They don't,
because you can't interact with people in person the same way you do with the people online.
Yeah, they'd rather, you know, text me, and I mean that's cool, and I respect, you know, each person for their own strengths, and I understand people have anxiety and weaknesses and different things about their personalities, and that's, you know, that's who some people are, and they deal with that. But there is just this generation, I feel, socially is so ill-equipped because of their dependence upon their phones, and they'd rather text somebody than, you know, a handshake and a smile. It's different than our generation.
Well, that's because with a text, you can type it out and think about what you want to send first.
And sometimes
you don't have that personal editor when you're just talking directly to people.
And sometimes you're afraid to say what you really think, and not that you're being rude to anyone, but it's just, you know, you don't know what kind of minefields you're stepping on. Sometimes you don't even realize there are minefields, verbal minefields, and you don't.
Well, this was probably, I want to say 2016.
Yeah.
In 2016, I was taking out my garbage, and there were a couple of kids. They had to be like 12 or 13 walking down the alley, and they were both texting. And I was like, guys, who are you texting? Just hang out with each other. You know, you're right there. Just talk to each other.
Yeah.
And they turned to me and said, we are. Like they were literally walking next to each other, texting each other.
Do y'all remember the Star Trek Next Generation episode where they had the little keypads and there were these binary people and they talked to each other through the keypads? They also had a version of that on Voyager, on one of the episodes where they had these beings that stayed in the dark or something on a garbage scow or something. But I remember like there were like 3 humanoid robots, and they would speak to each other and they could do things, and Data could speak with them, but they spoke completely through their phones. And this was before cell phones were even a thing. You know, Roddenberry was ahead of a lot of things, but it's kind of like that. You know, you can speak, and with the internet, generally speaking, you have an anonymity. People can be the ugliest versions of themselves. It's kind of like, you know, you can be yourself from a really dark reality. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can be a variant of yourself, you know, and
one of the best episodes of Community.
Yeah, it's like that. And, you know, so the whole communication thing is, I think we're coming back around from that, or at least I'm optimistic that I always think, you know, things are always going to work out for the best.
The pendulum swings, and it's swinging back the other way now.
It's swinging back
the other way. Starting
to a little bit more common sense in everything. And that, I'm not talking politically. I'm just talking in general. You know, I feel like we're getting back to a little bit more common sense. I think we're going to, you know, I love what somebody said in a meme. They said, you know, we've got all this AI taking over our art and stuff like that. And they said, I thought that the AI was supposed to take over our jobs so we'd have time for art and creating. And that's how it should be, you know. We should be able to.
Right. Well, but look at take modern dating, right? Because you were talking earlier about social skills, and like, see, the thing is, like, women, you know, have been on the internet and on television telling us men that we're worthless. You know, that they don't need us.
Masculinity is not toxic by nature.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, they're starting to, and now the women are like getting to the point where they're like, wait a minute, you know, I've, you know, rode the carousel for the last, like, you know, through all my 20s and early 30s. And now all the men that used to want me are going for younger women. And now I'm alone and I can't find a date. And it's like, yeah, because you've trained men that they're disposable to you. So men aren't getting invested in the relationships anymore. And if you think about it, like if women are just thinking of men as disposable, like, and they're not bringing anything else to the table, why does a man even want to get involved in that? You know what I mean? Because it's a net negative for men. If it doesn't work out, he takes half his shit.
Yeah, have you seen the Chris Rock thing where they talked about what men are valued for? And he's like, women are loved unconditionally, dogs and all that. They said, but men, our love or respect is conditional upon what we provide. And
yeah, women are born with their value. Men have to build their value.
Yeah. And guys can't show weakness. We can't. I think we're coming back from the edge of that. I think we've got more understanding now. I feel like the pendulum with that is even swinging back a little ways. You know, it's okay to say you've been in therapy. You know, it's okay. There's a time that was a stigma. You know, and so you know, and there's more outlets for guys to just be guys and talk to guys and understand what guys are going through, and we don't have enough of that. Some people find it in faith. Some people find it in, organizations. Unfortunately, a lot of kids have been finding it in gangs and, in negative ways. But they find, I don't know, the mob, whatever they get in. I don't know what people get into. You know what I'm saying? But I think we're coming back from that. I think, people are kindly realizing, we need to be. I want to think that the pandemic didn't make us softer, but it lessened our hardened core against talking to people and wanting to be around people. I feel like if that was taken away from us forcibly because of the pandemic and stuff for a while, and then when people got to get out and socialize, they're out socializing, they're out traveling more than ever, and I hope that continues where people will actually talk to people. They'll put their phone down and have a conversation with someone. It's, sometimes when you talk with someone now, you don't know, it's like, is this, you almost don't know how to carry on a conversation. It's so weird. I'm such an extroverted person. So it's like, for me, the pandemic was hard. It was like, I felt like I was in prison. I couldn't talk to people, couldn't go anywhere. And I almost had to retrain myself when it was okay to go out and talk to people and go places. And now most times you can't shut me up. So it's like, but I like being.
I loved the pandemic, and I'll tell you why. Right? Because I got COVID pretty much right at the beginning of it, and I've never gotten it again. Right? But the thing is this, the way the pandemic affected me, because all right, so right when the pandemic was in its full, right in the beginning when it was full swing and all the lockdowns were there, my job was opening a new location. So we spent those few months building the store.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So there was no need for customers to come in. And the benefit of the pandemic for me was there was no traffic. And you have to understand, I live in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
So I've literally sat still in traffic for 40 minutes.
Right.
So for me, no traffic, I'm like, oh, let this last for a little while longer at least. Don't get me wrong, I hate that people died from it. But it was nice to not be stuck in traffic for a few months.
Yeah, it sucks people died from it, but a lot of it was caused by failure of leadership.
Failure of leadership at the beginning, during, I think it was a learning process through it myself. I kind of followed the science on it. That's me, and I don't want to devolve into that because I don't want us to get too fractured on what we're talking about.
Yeah, we came to talk about Deadpool.
I know.
Yes.
I know, yeah. But I don't know what got us on that tangent, but I think we were trying to say basically that maybe communication isn't where it used to be, and I think there's a coming back of all of this. I feel like the pendulum, like you said, is starting to swing back in a more positive, more normal, for lack of a better term, direction. So, you know, of course that we.
Well, I think people are realizing that, you know, in terms of like, you know, social situations, in terms of like, you know, just the way things were in general were better before, right? And you know, I think that the people who were, you know, the Gen Z, who were like little kids when all this started, and then the millennials who were like still like in their late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
You know, I think that they're starting to notice, you know, that things are just getting worse and worse. And, you know, they're starting to think about, well, how do we bring it back to when things were good?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when they were young, they were told things were bad, but they didn't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
You know, and now they do.
Funny that in music, because I always follow music, and it always seems to, at least in my lifetime, to come, a lot of it to come back to the 80s. People like that fun type of music. I was watching... Not too long ago, I saw the We Are the World thing, and you had like 40, 50, I don't even know how many artists it was. All these people were like at the top of their game. All these people were superstars. You know, you had all of those people. And
from every genre.
Every genre, and it can mix, yeah, totally, you know, soul, R&B, you had rock, you had country in the same room. It was pop, everything, you know. And the internet kind of brought things together, but then shattered everything into a million subcategories, which can be good for like artists coming up, but you don't have the machines that made those people, at least in the film. Yeah, I mean the music industry. You know, you don't have a
well, but that's also part of the reason why we're getting so much trash, right? Because we don't have that filter.
We don't have
you know,
filter.
people can get internet famous and give them the illusion of being famous.
Right.
Whereas back in the day, in order to become a musician and get a record deal, you had to play out and get noticed by a producer.
Yep.
You know, now you can just get famous based on number of views.
Yeah, and you just got to go viral with some catchy hook, and you know you can get out your thing and program a beat, and you know, I sound like an old fogey when I say that. Some of that fascinates me, but you know, I only wish that I could tap out a beat real quick and, you know, be famous in 5 minutes. But
sometimes you just gotta hack to of that thing.
Right. Well, but movies are a great illustration too of how music was better in the past, right? Because look at all the movies coming out now. They're not using new music, you know, in the films. They're using old music in the films, you know.
Stranger Things is, you know, running that nostalgia tip. It's basically Goonies, you know, but changed. You know,
I mean, what's the name? Kate Bush. Like her song went back to #1 because of Stranger Things.
Yeah, like like 40 years.
Like
later.
Decades later.
Yeah.
Right, and what does that tell you? That tells you that there's nothing coming out now that's as good as that Kate Bishop song was in the '80s.
There's just not that soul there.
Thor Ragnarok was like.
Right, brought Led Zeppelin back in, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Oh, Guardians was a huge one for that.
I can't watch that scene in Thor without hearing that song.
Yeah, Immigrant Song. Yeah,
Immigrant Song. Yeah. That'll always be Thor now in my mind. It's like
I know.
I can't separate the two, and that's when you know the music and you know who you're speaking to, and you can marry the visual with, you know, the sound, and then you've got a memory there. You've got something. You created something new out of something old. You know, it kind of for me started with Beastie Boys and the whole Run DMC, Walk This Way with Aerosmith thing. That was a big bang, as it were. For
Collab.
And then you got Red Hot Chili Peppers that were doing it, and then they got real big, and you know, and then it splinters into. It becomes the multiverse, essentially, doesn't it? You know, in a lot of ways. And so I love the infinite possibilities of things now, but sometimes your mind can be so shattered or so spread out that what do you really believe in? Or, you know, are you just going with the flavor of the moment? That's the other, you know.
Right. Well, the problem is that the flavor of the moment is filled with songs like, you know, like My Coochie Be Juicy and and all this mumble rap and shit. And
good,
it's like
good Christian songs like that. You're right. Them good church songs.
Right? Like I don't think that's the whole reason that you don't see modern music in the movies anymore. Right? Where back in the day, some of the number one hits were from movies.
Well, you remember Gene Roddenberry. He was upset when he would have never allowed anything but basically classical music in Star Trek because he thought it was on another kind of intellectual level. That's how he viewed music. And so, when you get to something like Enterprise, when it had the pop song on there and people are like, oh, that's not, you can't do that. No.
Here's one for you.
Right, and then J.J. Abrams goes even further and puts Beastie Boys in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, really, dude? Come on. All these years and people are still listening to Beastie Boys? There's nothing new? Yeah. That young Kirk would have enjoyed more than this 200-year-old music? Really?
That's true. What were you saying, Curtis?
As I say, here's one for you. Don't you forget about me. You remember that one?
Oh, God, yeah. The Breakfast Club.
Yes.
The Simple Minds, yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Kenny Loggins had 3 number one hits that were made for movies.
Got to cut Footloose.
Danger Zone, Footloose, and I'm All Right from Caddyshack.
Right. It was the soundtrack of the 80s, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those were all original songs for movies.
And those weren't even his
then
best
you've
film.
got
those weren't even his best songs.
No, they weren't. I mean, in my opinion, his best song is Danny's song.
I was gonna say that, yeah. Even though we ain't got money.
Yeah. I'm so in love with you, honey. That's such a great song.
It's a beautiful song.
It's about a song about building a family, man. It's amazing.
To me, that was always in the Cats in the Cradle kind of group, of songs. Yeah.
I put it in. I put it in with like John Denver's Country Roads.
Oh yeah.
Kansas's Dust in the Wind. Which, by the way, is my favorite song of all time. Dust in the Wind from Kansas. Oh, I love that song.
It's a haunting song. Oh, gosh. I'm thinking of a lot of songs. I'm a big James Taylor. I've always been a James Taylor fan.
America's Sister Golden Hair.
America, they had so many good songs. For me, Tin Man by America. Oh, my gosh. I will stop what I'm doing if I hear Tin Man. Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have.
We're talking about that genre of music, and now I'm thinking about Creedence Clearwater Revival.
How could you?
And now all of a sudden I want to watch The Big Lebowski.
God.
Before you know it, we're going to be talking about Motown. I'm thinking of Stand By Me. Not Stand By Me. The Big Chill we were talking about the other night. So that's great. I love all of that. Motown.
You better respect.
Yeah, I miss the good old days when musicians needed to have actual musical talent. Yeah. Now you've got like AI beats and fucking auto-tune to correct their voices.
We're eventually, I don't know if you watch this guy, you really should check his channel out, Rick Beato, Beato, and he's interviewed one of his greatest interviews was with Sting, and he recently interviewed Stuart Copeland of the Police. He's a lot of new artists, but older artists as well. He interviews, but he's played in bands, he knows music, he's been in it. And he's got a great channel on YouTube, and he has some very intelligent conversations on their interviews and such. And just talk.
I hope you don't mind, but I just sent Digital Cavemann the link.
Oh, by all means, he's always welcome. Yeah, the more the merrier. That's what I'm always saying.
Yeah, DC, I just sent you a link on Instagram.
Okay. But when Caveman comes here, we need to start, when you start seeing him show up and I let him in, start talking about Wham, because he loves George Michael. Let's just start talking about how much we love Careless Whisper and Wake Me Up Before You Go, and just be serious about it.
Oh, man. Faith is an amazing song.
Oh, it is. I ain't gonna lie. I love my 80s, so you gotta love George Michael. His better stuff was actually the Listen Without Prejudice Volume 1 that came after the acoustic album he did, where he covered some Stones on there as well and some other things, but different influences. But I appreciate pretty much all types of music, except I can't really rock.
Jitterbug. Sorry.
Yeah. I love.
Oh, he says he's gonna stay in chat then.
Oh, he heard. You told him that? Oh shit! Oh, he must have heard. I forgot he can hear.
Apparently, he doesn't want to come on and talk Wham.
He's got to start breaking down his tent. Oh, that was earlier. That was 10 o'clock. Oh, I'm just seeing the chat now. Sorry, the chat. Oops. He's going to stay in the chat. Jitterbug. Okay. Well, I ruined that. I'm sorry. I'm not used to people listening or watching. But,
the jitterbug. That shit stuck in my head, damn it.
the boom boom into my heart.
Yes.
You make the sunshine brighter than Doris Day. Now, that's a beautiful lyric. Especially if you're Doris Day. But,
Yeah.
Oh, here he is. Everybody go Jitterbug when he comes in.
Jitterbug.
Oh, greetings.
Jitterbug. Hey, welcome to our Wham Fest.
Yes, Ed, where's your fingerless neon gloves and your booty shorts? And
Take me dancing tonight.
talking to Ed.
I got no shame in my 80s. I will bust out. Tell them when we played Rock Band that time, and I nailed Hungry Like a Wolf on Rock Band without even looking at the screen, dude.
Hungry like the wolf.
Yeah, Duran Duran was huge.
Yeah,
for a
you
little
almost.
while.
I remember you almost nailing my TV swinging the mic around
Yeah, it
too.
was when it had the microphone. I thought I was like Mick Jagger or somebody because, I'm the star of this band. I'm the David Lee Roth. I'm the star of this band. I'm the singer. And I can't sing. I can't carry a note, but I get the whole lead
Digital
singer.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone can deny that Van Halen was better with David Lee Roth than Sammy Hagar.
I'm of two minds. I'm a Van Hagar as well as a
They're
Van Halen.
it's two different bands.
They are two different bands.
Yeah. I like
My problem,
I like
look,
some
I'm
of
not
both
saying
of
that
them.
Van Hagar was bad, but Van Hagar wasn't Van Halen anymore because Van Halen with
different.
Sammy Hagar sounded like Sammy Hagar.
Well, that's what
Exactly.
Sammy Hagar said recently in an interview. He said, it's not that I didn't like David Lee Roth. He wasn't my kind of showman. My kind of showman was Mick Jagger. It was, is it Pete? Not Pete Townsend. Help me out. The head of the Who. What was the Who?
Roger Waters.
Roger Waters. Yeah. No. Was he? No. Was it right? Roger Waters. Okay.
No. Roger Waters
Was in the Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
Hell, yeah, I can see the guy. The lead singer. You know what I'm talking about. The frontman. Like
Yeah, I
that.
know who you're talking about.
I know you're talking.
He's like, David Lee Roth I wasn't aiming for this. I was aiming for Jagger. And so those were his idols.
Yeah, well,
He
it's
said I was
unfortunate he didn't hit Jagger. He wound
No.
up being fucking a discount Jimmy Buffett.
I don't know. I like Jimmy Buffett in some ways, but I don't know. I like Van Halen. I was listening to some Van Halen recently. I've been on a Van Halen trip.
What are you gonna do with your life?
Yeah, I kind of look at Van Hagar more as like boat rock.
Well, you do now, but at the time they were pop rock. They were, some of the stuff when Eddie.
Yes, they were a very poppy rock.
Well, you have to
band.
understand that 1984 was one of my favorite albums of all time. It was one of the first albums I ever bought at the store for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when Van Hagar came out and Cabo Wabo was like that shit, I'm like, oh, I guess he's taking us to Margaritaville.
Dude, if you ever watched that Blue Angels compilation where they have the song Dreams by Van Halen playing, it's like perfectly synced on. It's just really uplifting. I mean, 3 or 4 of their hit songs had the word love in them. I don't think David Lee Roth ever had a song called, Love in it. That wasn't his vibe.
No, David Lee Roth was hot for
Party-
teacher.
Yeah, he was the party guy. And a lot of things
Yes.
that Eddie Van Halen took a big problem with was that David Lee Roth wanted to keep doing a lot of covers. He got into a point where he started wanting to do cover songs, and Eddie Van Halen's like, I want to do new stuff, our stuff. And, that caused some conflicts, but David Lee Roth's ego was bigger than everybody's, it was like...
Yeah, well, and you could see that in his first solo album.
For sure.
Which I loved his first solo. I thought it was pretty... California
I
Girls
thought
was-
Yankee Rose was a great album.
Oh, okay, that one. Well, Crazy from the Heat, I think, was his first, but then Yankee Rose came later.
Oh, was Crazy from the Heat his first? I thought Yankee Rose was
It
his
was
first.
Crazy from the Heat because that was the first thing he did after 1984, after Van Halen kind of split, And he did that, and he had
That was the one with Just a Gigolo on it,
Just a
right?
Gigolo. I ain't got nobody.
Just
I
a
love
Gigolo.
that song. I just everywhere I go. That is a great song and a great video. And then he did.
Well, I mean,
Yankee
but look at
Rose.
Van Halen with David Lee Roth. The closest thing they came to a love song was "I'll Wait," and that was about him being in love with a freaking magazine model.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, that's like super shallow. You know, there's no.
When Eddie,
That's just objectifying. There's no
Eddie
love
Van
there. Even
Halen,
not the teacher.
when he discovered the keyboards on 1984, that was incredible. I remember when I heard Jump, I couldn't get enough of that. The keyboards are just so infectious and just. And then when they went, and that's the thing. If you follow Van Halen's or Van Hagar's progress, okay, they start with the synthesizers on 1984. Then when they get to 5150, their first #1 album, by the way, in 86, they were very much into the synthesizers. Then you get to like 87 when they did OU812 that had When It's Love. Then it was getting less and less keyboards. That was around 87, so the music was changing and they were evolving with it. But then you get to 91 and they have like Right Now and all that, and then you get into like Pound Cake, which those ones
yes,
are
for
really
unlawful carnal knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And then a lot of people stepped off when they got to Balance. Do you remember Balance? It had the two kids on the front cover like that, and that had 3 of the best Van Halen songs I've heard. I mean, rocking songs they had. It starts off with oh gosh, what is it? I can't think of it. One's called The Seventh Seal. That is a rocking hard, and it's a very angst kind of. This was like mid '90s, I think, at this point. So it kind of had that angsty feel to it. But Eddie was like rocking hard at that point. And there's another song on there. They had Can't Stop Loving You. That was kind of the pop hit off of there, a minimal hit. And then they had this other one called Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. You got to check those out on Balance. Those first 3 songs. They'll blow you away. And they had like Amsterdam and a few other songs on there that were really good. That was a good rocking album that didn't get as much play, but by then they were back to rock. They kind of went through a decade until it got into rock,
right?
And all that.
See, the reason I missed out on those later Van Hagar albums is because at that point I had moved on to like metal, like full on metal.
I thought you were gonna say you moved on to the Go-Go's and the Bengals.
No, that was before that.
I love the Go-Go's. I loved Belinda Carlisle. I just thought she
everybody had a crush.
Dude, honestly, I will say that one song from Belinda Carlisle is like such a masterpiece.
Oh, Heaven on Earth.
Heaven on Earth, yes. Heaven is a place on earth.
You know why you like that song? Because that song is You Give Love a Bad Name. Put them back to back, and you will see that is actually the same music. It really is.
Well, You Give Love, but lyrically, they're polar opposite.
Oh yes,
they are. Yeah, but musically they're the same. But yeah, her stuff, Circle in the Sand on there was a beautiful song. She had a good run.
Pat Benatar.
Oh yeah, Pat Benatar.
Yeah,
she had like nothing but anthem after anthem after anthem.
Invincible was really good. We Belong is probably her best. That's
We Belong. I love We Belong.
Just pulls in everything, and it's so badass. For me, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, but I had the 45 version, which had an extra guitar in it, and it rocks even more. And you can only find that like on the internet, the 45 version. No other version is like anywhere that you can find it. And I found it on YouTube recently, and I'm like, that's the version I hear in my head when I hear that. I can't listen to the song because it's so bland without that extra guitar in there.
Didn't she end up marrying
Neil
guitar
Girardi,
player?
Yeah. They've been married like 20, 30 years or something. Yeah. He was they were like a songwriting duo, really. Except he wasn't really. He played guitar, but
like Bernie Koufax and Elton John.
Wasn't her mom an opera singer or something like that?
She was trained to be an opera singer.
Okay.
I don't know about her mom, but yes, she was trained to be a classical.
Y'all know somebody who as they say, slept on, and I remember because my uncle was the rock and roll uncle, and I used to type up. He used to make CDs, and he mixed in a bar, and he would play music and all that, and I would type up the CDs because he'd make mixtapes back then or mix CDs or whatever it was, and so.
Hey guys, I'll be back in a minute.
Rock and roll stuff, but I wanted him to hear this because, but the person I was talking about was Linda Ronstadt. She can do so freaking much, and I tell you, one song that I think is better than the original, the Roy Orbison song "Blue Bayou." His is great, but Linda Ronstadt's version will rip your heart out. It's like she's so good at singing, and you forget that this is the same one that was singing those pop songs in the '80s. Like with Aaron Neville and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
the Fievel song that was so good. What was Fievel? Remember American Tail.
Yeah.
Like somewhere out there, me and my wife love that song. If one of us starts singing it, we'll both start singing it together. It's just one of those beautiful songs. But she could rock out. And you know who her backup band was?
Who?
The Eagles. That's
No
how they
way.
got their start. Look it up. It's for true. And she told them when they were starting out, she goes, "You guys are so good. You should kind of go out on your own." And they did. And they became the Eagles, which is crazy. But she could sing rock. She could sing pop. She could sing country. And just a really kind of, I know she got some of her due, but I never knew how good she was. It's kind of like Johnny Cash. I discovered him basically after he died. I knew who he was, but really discovering some of his stuff, like he has a singer-songwriter CD that came out recently.
He's really not the kind of music you listen to as a kid.
No, that's true. You wouldn't.
You don't get it.
Being in Folsom Prison, but but he was Yep. Oh well, tell the kid. Oh, I'm recording this for a podcast, by the way, just so you know. So whoever shows up, if anybody's slamming doors or anything, it's going to be on the podcast. But yeah, I mean,
that's why I will argue it's the best. I'm not saying it is the best, but I will argue that Transformers the movie soundtrack is like the best soundtrack ever for a movie.
It is. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
It has a lot of good, catchy songs on it. But then again, if you're not a Transformers fan, they might not be as catchy for you.
Right.
could be.
But that's why I argue.
But yeah, I mean Stan Bush, and then who was the rock band that did the theme?
Weird Al was on it too, man.
Yeah, Weird Al. Yeah, what was it? Dare to Be Stupid.
Yeah.
Dare to Be Stupid was on that?
Yes.
How does that even mix with that movie?
It's the Junkions.
The Junkions.
The Junkions, yeah.
I remember Dare to Be Stupid. Dare to Be Stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a musical genius, Weird Al. Weird Al's
well, he's when he's hot, and when he's not,
he's not.
It's like God, what is it? That thing he likes to play.
It's the best pair. It's like the
poke your eyes out.
When
accordion.
When he's good, he's good, and when he's not, he's polka.
He's polka.
Yeah, I'm gonna polka your eyes out.
I mean, because there's some that he did, like when he did the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he turned it into Yabba Dabba Dabba Doo. Now, that was
the one
not his greatest moment.
The Anakin episode.
Oh yeah, from Don McLean's.
I mean, he made that I guess it was kind of based on.
Again, like I said, when he hits it, he hits it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids were like 16, 17 years old, and I took them to see Weird Al, and they were like, "Oh, come on." Right?
Now they probably think.
They jumped out of their seats, ran up to the stage, all this stuff. They had a blast. They loved it, and they still talk about it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Somebody that I didn't know until I saw him with Def Leppard this summer was Steve Miller. I knew of Steve Miller. I listened to Steve Miller and all that. He still performs pretty good. He did it in a cardigan sweater in damn near 100-degree temperatures. He's like, it's really hot here. And he was so badass that we saw him in Atlanta. And they still sound like the freaking record, dude. It's like amazing. I wish he would have made more albums in between, because he kind of got stuck in that 70s vibe, and
Yeah, if you pretty much get his greatest hits album,
you've got.
That really is the best of his catalog.
It is the best, but you don't get Abracadabra on that, and then you don't get.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Unless you got the wrong greatest hits album.
No, because the original, I have the original greatest hits. It didn't have Abracadabra on it.
Well, it's a different one than the one I've got then,
Well,
because
the one that's been known, it may have been reissued because they reissue stuff now and add tracks to it. So yeah, if they put it, should be on there because it's obviously one of his biggest hits, and it's still relevant because he even sang part of the Eminem lyric in it. You know, because the Eminem song is he did that, and some people are like, oh, you know, when they got it.
We just guys, my drink was empty and my bladder was full, and I needed to flip that like Kamala Harris does her race. What did I do?
Well, please tell me you didn't like empty the bladder into the cup. That would be disastrous.
Well, if I had done that, I wouldn't have had to leave.
Oh dear. Hey, you missed our good conversation. We were talking. The artist I was building up to was Linda Ronstadt. I know you.
Well, I had left when you had started mentioning Linda Ronstadt, and I heard you talking about the her song "An American Tale."
Yeah. But my favorite song is "Blue Bayou." Nobody does it like her. She's better than Roy Orbison on that one. There's only a few songs I can say are as good or better than the original. "Walk This Way" by Run DMC, I think, is a little bit better than the original, even though I do appreciate the original.
All Along the Watchtower was better by Hendrix than Dylan.
Yeah,
so much so that even Dylan changed the way he played it to match Hendrix's version.
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned Buffett. There was one cover that he did that I thought he did a good job of, and that was Southern Cross. I love that song. I don't know why I love that song. It's just a good anthem song by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And their version's okay. It's good. But I liked his version. It was a different kind of version, but it still was close enough. You know, I'm usually...
here's a hot take for All Along the Watchtower. And I realize that I'm probably alone on the planet with this take. But there was a very diffused version of that song done for the show Battlestar Galactica by Bear McCreary. And that version of All Along the Watchtower is so fucking amazing that I actually like it better than Hendrix's.
Like the new Battlestar Galactica or the classic one?
The new one. It played in the very final episode.
That might be why I don't remember it, because I try to forget that final episode. It wasn't. It wasn't the greatest cap off for that series.
No, that series was amazing up to that point too.
Yes.
Yeah, it was amazing until that.
I think they just didn't know how to end it.
Version of All Along the Watchtower, guys, listen to it. It's fucking haunting. It's amazing.
Yeah, I got a guilty pleasure for don't make fun of me, but I like the Georgia Satellites.
No, that's
so you're telling us that you have a little change in your pocket going jing-a-ling-a-ling?
That feels like heritage to us.
Yes, he loves you, period. Do you love him? Question mark.
I got a little change in my pocket.
I got a little change in my pocket going jing-a-ling-a-ling. I'm gonna call you on the telephone, baby, and give you a ring.
Yes, no, that's okay to like.
You get no hug, you know, until get a wedding ring.
I ain't gonna tease you too much about it.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah, I remember that 86.
Yeah.
Watching on MTV.
Yeah, there were a lot of one-hit wonders from that era. You know, you remember "Should I Stay or Should I Go" from the Soup Dragons?
Yeah.
Like, you remember the song, but you don't remember the name of the band, right?
No, I didn't remember the name of the band.
No, that was the Clash.
The Clash.
Yeah, originally, but the Soup Dragons covered it in the 90s.
Why?
Hell if I know.
Because it was the 90s.
There's a lot of songs to me. Like, the only one song that's better than the original to me is Layla by Clapton.
When he did the unplugged version,
I freaking love it.
Yes.
It's a whole different vibe.
Don't get me wrong. I love that guitar riff.
Yeah. But
in the original version, but the acoustic version was so much better.
Yeah, I can't watch Clapton unplug. I'll start crying as soon as he starts singing "Tears from Heaven."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Clapton.
That whole album
was great, and it launched
I love it. I could just listen to it on repeat. Yeah,
that's who my human avatar was named after.
Well, actually, what kicked off the unplugged stuff was the time that John Bon Jovi and Richie Sambora showed up on one of the award shows, and they did the acoustic version of Wanted Dead or Alive. Yeah. And that gave the MTV execs the idea to do Unplugged.
The one that blew the door.
Oh, he blew the lid off.
I would argue the best Unplugged session was Nirvana.
I enjoyed that one too, and I was not a big fan of them at the time.
There's a version, and I don't know that it's officially unplugged on the show, but there was one where Melissa Etheridge, who doesn't get a lot of credit, she was on there and she brought, it might have been Heroes and Icons or one of those, icon shows or whatever, but I thought it was an unplugged, and she brought on Bruce Springsteen, and they did Thunder Road, and it was just so cool to see somebody who's really loved her influence. I mean, Springsteen was like everything to her, and just like the power of her music, you could feel Springsteen in it, and you could see he was juiced up by playing it. So that was a really good one.
Another really good acoustic session that we didn't get until like 40 years later. Well, not 40, like 30 years later, was because the Beatles did an unplugged session, and we didn't get it until they put out the anthology album.
Oh, yeah.
They never released it until the anthology. But they do an unplugged version of Because, and there's no instruments. It's just a cappella. It's just the four of them singing.
You mean?
And it's a way better version of Because than what's on Abbey Road.
You mean Michael Jackson released it?
They might have sold off his portion of it for like 600 something million. They're trying to sell.
I think McCartney has his hands on it now.
Again?
He doesn't officially, not yet, but he's already made, he's worth $1 billion on his own without it. I'm like, well, of course, there's Beatles behind that, but not officially the catalog. But he's toured so much. He's just so damn good.
He's the only one alive. No, Ringo's still.
Ringo's going to be the last one alive.
That's exactly that's my fear. Because the day that when a few people pass away, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be sad when Phil Collins goes. He's looking like he's getting closer. Unfortunately.
Oh, dude, yeah, he looked that last show he showed up on. He was rough looking.
Oh man, That's All is such an amazing song.
Yeah, but that Paul McCartney and Sting, I'm going to take those hard. I took Prince hard when Prince. My wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was all mopey and depressed, and like, "Don't mess with me." I was in a mood. She says, "What's wrong?" I said, "Prince died today." I was like, "I was so sad."
Oh yeah. He posts on his Facebook.
That's how I felt when Olivia Newton-John died.
He posts on his Facebook like, "My best friend died today,"
or something like that.
For me, it was like when Olivia Newton-John died. That my first crush died. You know what I mean? That was like my first crush, and she,
Dude, I still got Purple Rain, and I still have my time from the same year on record.
Purple Rain was the very first. That was what we were listening to the very first time I smoked weed.
Oh dear. Well, people that know me know one of my favorite artists, and the other one I forgot, Don Henley. I'm going to be very upset when Don Henley dies. I think he is a master poet musician. He can do more with a lyric. Him and Sting can do more with a lyric and more with like the written lyric and singing lyric than most artists can do. They're incredibly amazing.
Now I want to hear Desert Rose.
Oh yeah.
Well, one of my favorite songs from Sting was Russians.
Russians is a great one. He's got so many good ones. For me,
I want to hear that one.
One of the obviously the End of the Innocents is like one of my favorite core albums of my existence about Henley. It came along at an interesting time in my life, a good time in my life, but The Last Resort I think is probably Henley's masterpiece. Even right up there with Hotel California. I just feel like for written word and the story, I just love his stories that he creates with what he writes. But I've always been, and I'll always be a big Michael Jackson fan, and to the point it annoys my friends. But there's nobody, because I don't look at. I can look at I can, but even beyond that, I can look at the artistry of the artist, and
what what was that game? What was that game you had on the Wii?
Hey, Ed, I'm sorry to interrupt, DC.
Yeah.
The live stream's now just past 3 hours.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So you might want to end it and just us be
let's do that,
backstage
'cause
from here on out.
That's fine.
Because we drifted off Deadpool like an hour ago.
Yeah, I'll probably have to cut all that down. But okay, well, we'll cut off the live stream. But thank you everybody for being here. Make sure you subscribe to everybody. We'll stay on stage. We'll just won't record this.
Deuces.
Prophet Doctor, thank you. And oops, let me take everybody off of there. I gotta get that off there. Why can I see y'all? Oh, because I got your comment on there. Caveman. There we go. There's everybody. Well, thank y'all for episode 178, whatever this is, the live stream of Deadpool versus Wolverine. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you.
You can find me on.
Sorry.
You can find me on Digital Cavemann's Wham's Greatest Hits.
And don't forget, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be ranking the best movies from 1980. Everybody here on the panel right now is participating. It's going to be a great show.
Fantastic.
That'll be on Sergeant Curtis Schultz's channel.
Yes.
And that is located
on YouTube.
So it's located as Sergeant Curtis Schultz.
Cool. And
just type in Sergeant Curtis Schultz, you'll find us.
Yeah.
Let me throw.
So there you go, guys. Look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, you can scan for us there. And let me throw everybody's banner up there real quick. Here's no, that's the wrong one. Digital Caveman. Digital Caveman presents on YouTube at Digital Caveman, and wherever. Okay, thank y'all. Bye.
Yeah.
Let me turn this off. Okay, end stream. Ending stream. I'm gonna turn the recorder off too. I guess I'm gonna record all this. Okay, that's off. We're still
now. You can actually put.
Thanks for listening to another exciting episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast with your host, Ed, aka the Savage Tech Man. Remember to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for being a part of the Geek Homeworld.